All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this meeting of the Howell Township Governing Body to order. This is the August 12th workshop and regular meeting agenda. Ms. Woolman or Mr. Davis, would you please read the necessary opening statement?
Woolman said I had to read it.
Do you remember, Bruce? I know it's been a while.
It's been a while.
I'm only kidding.
I think I have it committed to memory at this point. Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice the holding of this workshop regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner. By the posting of copy said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on December 28, 2007, and by the faxing of copy said notice the Asbury Park Press, Tri-Town News, and Star Ledger for publication on December 28, 2007, and by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on December 28, 2007. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of the Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 127, NJAC 17:27. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with 3 emergency exits for your safety. The locations are as follows. Upon exiting the meeting room to the rear, they are to the immediate left and immediate right, and at the front of the meeting room to the left of the dais. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Here.
Mr. Howell?
Here.
Mr. Showmaker?
She's not presently here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mayor DeBello?
Here. Okay, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance when we come back out for public. Ms. Woolman, I believe, or Ms. Woolman, Mrs. Schlegel, I believe we have reason to go into executive. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Litigation and personnel.
Okay, can we have the statement, please?
Whereas Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 13 of the New Jersey Revised Statutes require that the public shall not be excluded from any meetings of a public body unless a resolution authorizing such exclusion is adopted at a public meeting. And whereas the Township Council of the Township of Howell has determined that such a closed meeting is required to discuss certain matters which are exempted from consideration with the public in attendance under New Jersey Revised Statutes 10:4-12, namely litigation and personnel matters. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Howell that the public shall be excluded from the next portion of this meeting, and that the Township Council will reconvene in public session thereafter. Be it further resolved that minutes will be kept of the meeting in closed session, and the time and circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public cannot be determined at this time. Need a motion and second, Mayor.
We need a motion and a second, please.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or remarks? This is for executive session. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBello?
Yes.
4 yes.
All right, for the benefit of the public, we expect to convene in regular session in approximately 1 hour. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to reconvene this meeting to order. Let the record reflect this is the August 12th workshop and regular meeting of the Howell Township Mayor and Council. We commenced the meeting at 6:30 and have been in executive session since that time. So we've already exchanged the necessary opening statements. At this time, I'd ask everyone to please rise for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would just ask that everyone please remain standing for a moment of silent observation in thought of the many troops that defend this country all over the world. Thank you. All right, getting right into our agenda, I do have a brief statement to make with respect to our agenda this evening. I'll refer to it as the Elon item. At the last council meeting, there was a public hearing which was carried until this evening, and it's been brought to the council and my attention that there is a mistake in the ordinance as it was crafted with respect to the zoning designation. And that mistake is significant enough that it will require the ordinance to be corrected and re-advertised. So if you are here this evening exclusively for that issue, and I suspect many are, it is not going to be an issue that we're going to be debating this evening. The council will be voting no on the basis of the technicality, and it does need to be corrected, and it will be reconsidered at a later date upon which that deficiency will be addressed. So if anyone is here exclusively for that issue, there will not be any extensive debate on that particular ordinance this evening. So I just want to make that statement in the event anyone had any questions about it. We certainly will have regular public participation for any at-large comments. So in getting to the agenda, I'd ask a member of the council to make a motion, please, for the acceptance of the June 24th, July 10th, and July 15th minutes of our meetings. This includes regular session, executive, special meetings.
Make that motion, Mayor.
We have a motion, we need a second,
Second, Mayor.
please. We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or remarks?
Folks, I'm trying to get out.
Sure, let's just finish, we're in the middle of a roll call. Are there any comments or remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please, on the acceptance of minutes, Article 4.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yeah, just for the benefit of the
Oh, yes,
public,
Mayor.
I know it's difficult at times to keep the conversation down to a dull roar. If you do have a need to have a sidebar conversation, we would just ask, as a courtesy to the other folks in the room, that you attempt to do that outside in the corridor. Again, the technical deficiency is the ordinance refers to the zoning designation as, Mrs. Schlegel, what is it?
Area 6.
It refers to it as
It
ARE.
refers to it as ARE 6, however, it is ARE 2.
And that is a material enough mistake in the ordinance that it cannot be acted upon. So it needs to be corrected, and it will be, in fact, corrected and re-advertised at a later date. So that is the reason we are unable to act on it tonight. And folks, we've got to continue on our agenda. We'll be more than happy to entertain any questions in the regular public session. We're going to go to reports of officials. Mrs. Schlegel, we'll start with you. What do you have for us?
Yes, Mayor.
Why don't you wait 1 second, Mrs. Schlegel? I think some folks are... Mr. Curry, would you mind just closing that door once you come on in, or Mr. Schneider, please? Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, Mrs. Schlegel, what do you have for us?
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to mention that last night, there was a hearing held at the Howell Memorial Middle School, New Jersey, regarding New Jersey American Water's purchase water adjustment charge and their purchase sewer adjustment charge that shows up on some of our residents' bills. There were approximately 100 residents there to have the representative express their concerns, and I'd just like to thank all those residents that came out last night to express their concerns with the administrative law judge. But that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Terrific. All right, we'll start with the council. Mrs. Dalton, anything under reports?
Just to follow up, Mr. Schlegel, do we know when the administrative law judge is obligated to provide a decision on that, and what the process is from here, just for the benefit of the public?
From here, I believe September, do you know that date?
Well, this was the purchase water sewer adjustment charge. This was a different matter. This is not the rate.
Oh, this is not the New Jersey, the
No,
rate
no.
change?
No, the
Okay.
rate change, there's a very set schedule beginning in September in Newark, and there's, many dates that there's going to be hearings, and that's posted, and
We'll post that.
Okay, so
We'll
what's
have
the
that
purchase-
posted on our website. There were, some bills are reflecting this purchase water adjustment charge and purchase sewer adjustment charge, which the purchase water adjustment charge is when the New Jersey American Water has to purchase water from another company that then gets down to us, and those people are charged that. And the sewer adjustment charge, I believe, has to do with their wastewater. So these charges have been on, I don't think it's all residents,
A lot
but
of folks
certain
in the
residents.
villages, is that-
Yes.
yeah.
Most of the residents that were at the school last night were from the villages and Surrey Downs.
That's all, Mr.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dalton. Mrs. Showmaker, under reports, do you have anything?
No, but one quick question to the township manager. I know that there was a meeting this morning in regards to consolidating the schools. Was there someone in attendance from our?
Yes, I was in attendance as the mayor's had asked me as his representative to attend that meeting.
And we'll get minutes on that?
Well, what I can do is just, if you want, briefly, I did send you emails this afternoon after the meeting. But just to give you, it was a very, very preliminary discussion. There's been some talk at the state level about looking at different Board of Educations and possible consolidations for the state to save money and things like that. And Dr. Wasser just wanted to make sure that
Mr. Wasser?
that all of the municipalities in the Freehold Regional District are aware of things that are going on, and he wants to make sure that if we need to be proactive, that's what we do. But he just wants to keep everyone in the loop and all the towns that are in the Freehold Regional District. So that was really just to bring everybody together and let them know that there has been talk about it, but nothing substantial, but that he'll keep us in, he'll get that disseminate that information to everyone, and just make sure that he'll touch base and we'll know what's going on, so we can certainly have our input and talk about impacts that it may have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mrs. Showmaker? Okay, Mr. Walsh, anything under reports?
Couple things, Mayor. I would like to extend my thanks and gratitude to our head of recreation, David Fuoco. Is that how I pronounce his last name?
Davide.
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 I call him David. It's the American interpretation. But I had the opportunity to stop by down at Adelphia Firehouse about a week and a half ago, and we have a great summer program called Teen Adventures for the special needs kids. And I really saw some of the organizations in Howell work together helping each other. We had a lot of the special needs kids there. We had a lot of members of Adelphia Firehouse, and we had members of Howell First Aid. And they're all chipping in, helping with the special needs kids, letting them put on uniforms, sit in the driver's seat. And it's just a wonderful program. And it was a great thing seeing the citizens of Howell Townships, our volunteers, giving them of their own time to help the children. And, Davide Fuoco is the head of recreation right now, and I think he's doing a tremendous job. Also, I saw a nice article in the newspaper about our skate park down in Ramtown, which had been vandalized a while ago and was totally fixed up and repaired. So maybe now they can stop skateboarding down at the Wawa down there in Ramtown and get back to the skate park, make everybody a little bit happier. Something else was brought to my attention that I wanted to bring up, and I really don't know how to address this. I try to support many different things in Howell Township. And one of the things that I support happens to be an organization that Howell Township itself and the taxpayers help to subsidize. And I've been a patron and a supporter of the Howell Historical Society. And I really don't know what to do with this, but I wanted to bring it out publicly. I mean, I've probably made 25,000, 30,000 business cards in my life, and every one of them have my name on it. Well, all of a sudden, in July, my name disappeared from my business card in the Howell Historical Society in their pamphlet that goes out every month. Okay, and then does happen to be a political year. The gentleman who's running against me's name showed up in big block letters, and my name disappeared in August. I mean, if the Howell Historical Society doesn't want my patronage, God bless them. No, ma'am.
Not right now. Whoa. Hold on.
Things don't get erased on mistakes in life, folks. I've made 25,000 to 30,000 business cards, and my name's Robert F. Walsh. And it's on all 25,000 to 30,000. I don't think anybody's ever going to find one that doesn't have my name. The first one ever appeared without my name was the copy that was removed from June in the July version of the Howell Historical Society. But it's not a political newspaper. It's
Okay, hold on 1 second. With respect, Mrs. Smith. Councilman Walsh has the floor. This is his time. Mrs. Smith, we have an opportunity for the public to participate in this meeting. At that time, you will be afforded an opportunity to share your commentary. Mrs. Smith, of all people, you know better. I'm going to ask you to refrain, or I'm going to ask you to leave the chambers. Mr. Walsh has the floor. I'm going to return the floor back to Councilman Walsh. I apologize, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. As something that's subsidized by the taxpayers, it's supposed to be non-political. I wish it would just stay that way. If they don't want my patronage, don't ask me for help, no problem. But to remove my name like that to me is a pretty low blow. So, and it did disappear. There's no way it was there for months upon months and all of a sudden disappears in July. Wasn't a mistake. So, That's all I want to say. I would like it looked into, because I do believe they get money from the township. It's supposed to be non-political, and I would like something back for the manager, if possible, by the next meeting.
What's the pleasure of the council?
I'll refer to the pleasure of the council. I think Mrs. Showmaker wasn't recognized, but I overheard her commentary, and I think this is the bone of contention. Why don't you repeat your statement, Mrs. Showmaker?
The postage for that is paid by the taxpayers. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is the printing for, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Go right ahead, Mrs.
Is
Dalton, please.
The printing, the copies, everything is paid by, the township provides all that?
They print it on our copy machines. Yes.
All right, does the council have an objection to this matter being looked into on behalf of...
Mayor, if I,
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
yeah, absolutely, I want this looked into. Because if taxpayer funds are being used in a political manner, I would imagine, first off, that some law has probably been broken. And I would also ask that until we have an answer, that we suspend any affiliation at all with the Historical Society. So no more postage, no more use of the machines, no more use of township properties, nothing, until we figure out from the attorney exactly where we stand with this. You know, Mayor, I got to believe that this, you know, it just doesn't smell right.
I do have some comments on this, but does anyone else have any comments
May
on
I,
this?
Mr.
Go ahead,
Mayor?
Mrs. Dalton.
I agree with the sentiment that certainly it appears. I've seen the historical bulletin every month. I see Mr. Walsh's company is always sponsoring. I'd like to implore that it get done quickly, whatever investigation, whatever explanation. There are explanations, and I don't think that we can come to final conclusions without doing an investigation. And I understand time-wise that, you know, if we can look at what happened, get an answer so that we can do this quickly so that it doesn't necessarily interfere with the continuing benefit to the public. I've seen things that have concerned me even in the Howell Messenger, which we publish, or which we pay for in conjunction with the Chamber, that have comments concerning campaigns. So I think we have a policy, don't we, that anything that we provide as far as publications should have no political agenda, correct?
That's correct.
All right. I just want to see that policy across the board is being implemented.
Mrs. Showmaker.
Mayor, just one quick comment. Everyone says that, you know, about an investigation. I don't think that we need an investigation. I think a simple, honest explanation would be called for. I mean, these are adults, and there's nothing, it's clearly, and I'm looking at all he has here, it's always been Center State, Robert Walsh, and all these, and then all these other, it says, it's blacked out, so it's not something that's made up, and he has more than one copy of it, so, it's not something that...
I'll give you my commentary on this, and I'm looking at this very objectively. I've raised concerns before I was on the council when an elected official, in my judgment, was using taxpayer dollars to distribute political paraphernalia, and I would be inconsistent if I didn't take the same position here. On the surface, this doesn't pass the stink test. There's probably a rational explanation for it, and I think Councilman Walsh has every right to ask that it be explored. So I think the council is in agreement, based on all of our comments, that this is worthy of an explanation and a review by your office with the Historical Society, and this is not an admonishment of the Historical Society. This is not, they're not being censored. We want some answers, and we're going to expect you, Mrs. Schlegel, to handle that as diplomatically as possible. With respect to the Deputy Mayor's point about concerns in using postage and copy machine paper and what have you, I would tend to agree that until this has been satisfactorily addressed, because taxpayer dollars are used to pay for the postage and the printing of this, we would be ill-advised to continue to support this financially until it has been resolved to our mutual satisfaction, very objectively, and that I'm okay with it if there is a consensus that, as it relates to postage and printing and the copying, that we not be involved in this newsletter until it has been determined what actually happened here. And I'm okay with going that far. I mean, is there a consensus on that much, Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
All right, so I think you have our direction, Mrs. Schlegel, and we would expect you to handle this as diplomatically and professionally as possible. The Historical Society is a wonderful organization. It's filled with wonderful people. We expect that there will be some explanation when this is all handled. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Walsh, under reports?
I'm good, Mayor,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Deputy Mayor?
No, Mayor, looking at the hour, I'll skip it.
I just have a couple of quick items. I do have a proclamation to read this evening from the office of the mayor. The proclamation is Over the Limit, Under Arrest 2008 Statewide Crackdown. And it reads as follows. Whereas impaired drivers on our nation's roads kill some every 30 minutes, 50 people per day, and almost 18,000 people per year. And whereas 28% of motor vehicle fatalities in New Jersey are alcohol-related. And whereas an enforcement crackdown is planned to combat impaired driving. And whereas the end of the summer is traditionally a time of social gatherings in which oftentimes alcohol is included. And whereas the state of New Jersey, the Division of Highway Traffic Safety, has asked law enforcement agencies throughout the state to participate in the, quote, Over the Limit, Under Arrest 2008 statewide crackdown. And whereas the project will involve increased impaired driving enforcement from August 15th through September 1st, 2008, during this period upon which there is increased alcohol consumption. And whereas an increase in impaired driving enforcement and a reduction of impaired driving will save lives on our roadways. Now therefore be it resolved and proclaimed that Howell Township declares its support of the Over the Limit, Under Arrest 2008 statewide crackdown from this August 15th to September 1st time period and pledges to increase awareness of the dangers of drinking and driving. It's signed this 12th day of August by myself, Joseph M. DeBella, Mayor of Howell Township. And I appreciate our police department working in this effort and bringing this to our attention. Do you have a comment, Mrs. Schlegel?
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to note that that crackdown is being funded by the Division of Highway Traffic Safety.
Terrific. Okay. I had a couple of minor items. I was very pleased that we received a copy of our annual report, the 2007 annual report from McInerney, Brady and Company. And in the time that I have been here, every audit we've gotten, and we've probably used 3 or 4 different firms in that time span, has always come back with what, in my estimation, would be overall a very favorable report. And I think, Mr. Filiatro, this continues to look very favorably upon your work as the head of that department and your staff. I was delighted to read the very minimal recommendations at the back of the report, largely procedural things that clearly acknowledge again that your office, at least in my estimation, does a wonderful job, and your staff does a wonderful job. And at least from, I know I speak for the council, it's great to get that kind of a report when you're running a $40 million business, and the auditors suggest that you're running it well and that you're doing a good job. That really says a lot. So thank you for a job well done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of other items. I have a designee who represents me on the planning board. The mayor has the ability to either attend the meetings or send the representative, and for the first several years I attended them, and then I had gotten a volunteer to begin to attend in my stead. That individual has resigned. And so while I've got about 5 or 6 months left, Mr. Walsh is counting the days for me. While I've got just a couple of months left,
Hope you stay, Mayor.
I've decided that I'm going to go back to the planning board, and I'm going to finish out the balance of this year. It's not practical to get someone up to speed in short order, so I am going to be re-attending the planning board meetings and filling out that particular seat. 2 other minor items, really probably one and the same. I wrote to the community about a concern I have with the regulations dealing with the Council on Affordable Housing. And it was covered at least by one of the newspapers in the Howell Times. And I know that Council largely agrees that we are really facing a crisis when it comes to the regulations that are affiliated with the Council on Affordable Housing. The regulations that the state has suggested that this community have to comply with would require us to build another 900 homes or be prepared to. And we have a lawful obligation to comply with COA. And we as a municipality will do everything that we must to comply with it. However, I am imploring the community to reach out to our state senator, to reach out to our assemblyman, to reach out to the governor, to reach out to other elected officials, and to plead with them that responsible action has to be taken in Trenton. 900 additional homes to have to be built in our community would be devastating. We have folks here tonight concerned about, the Elon situation. Could you imagine 900 more homes having to be built? The costs are beyond immeasurable. The impact on our quality of life would be horrific. This is a battle cry for communities across the state to come together. These regulations are flawed, and in my estimation, the legislature and the governor have the ultimate ability to fix this. They need to go back to work in Trenton. They need to correct these deficiencies. This impacts all virtually 600 communities in the entire state, and everyone feels the same way. All the voters feel this way. All the elected officials feel this way. It seems to me the only people who disagree are the people in Trenton who write the laws. And so I'm appealing to every resident. Call, write, email, do whatever you have to do. If the people in Trenton don't understand we're not going to tolerate this, then it will destroy our community. And I don't mean to be dramatic about it, but this is as serious as it gets. So as I put in my article to the community, regardless of your political affiliation, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Fascist, Green Party member, none of that counts right now. We are Howell Township residents, and this issue will steamroll our community if we don't do something about it. So I plead with you to take action and to reach out to the people that have the ability to change this issue. The council is going to explore other venues that we may be able to participate in to encourage the legislature to reconsider, and we're going to do everything we have to protect our community. But I want to continue to appeal to people, take action. This is the time. I see the mayor of Farmingdale is here. I'm hoping Farmingdale is going to be on board with this, and I'm sure they will.
Mr. Mayor, can I
Go
just,
right ahead,
just to
Mrs.
piggyback
Goldman,
on that, I
please.
think I agree with everything you said, and excellent points. The deputy mayor and I were just commenting, though, the 900 homes that you mentioned are the 900 affordable homes, and it's really important that we emphasize that to get those 900 homes, another 4,500 market rate units need to be built. So we're talking about a total of 5,400 new homes to satisfy our COA obligation. So it's silly. When you look at that number, it's just unbelievable. I just wanted to point that
No,
out.
it's a great point. This is as serious as it gets. In
Oh, it's
6
4?
years,
4 or 5. All right. Okay. So it's 4,500 total.
in the 6 years that I've been here, this might be the single greatest threat to the entire community if we don't do something about this. On a happy note, I was delighted to find out that Howell Township ranked in Money Magazine in their most recent edition, in their August edition. Howell Township was ranked the 77th best place to live in America. And that's certainly great news. We can all pine on about the difficulties we all face from time to time, and nothing is perfect, and we'd all love for things to be better than they are. But I do think it's important that we take a moment and be proud of the fact that our community was acknowledged by this national publication. It takes into consideration things like safety, things like education, things like affordability. It also talks about leisure and arts and jobs in the economy. So clearly, this is a real nice testimony to the wonderful things that we have to be thankful for in Howell Township. And I'm going to pass this along to you, Mrs. Schlegel, and perhaps we can have this scanned and posted on our website.
Mayor, I have a link to the article on our website.
You're way
on the
ahead of us
front
as
page.
usual. So that I can keep my copy?
Yes, you can.
Will you
Yes, you
autograph it
may.
for me? Okay. That's all I have under reports. Anything else anyone has?
One more thing, Mayor.
Go right ahead, Mr. Gold.
I believe next Wednesday, there's a shared services meeting in Marlboro with a lot of the representatives from different governing bodies in Monmouth County.
Oh, and next Wednesday night's the Johnny Carino's for the
PBA.
PBA Vestacop.
So
The Vesta Cup.
I'll be going to Marlboro, but any of us are invited. Anybody that could go would be helpful from the governing bodies. A lot of different municipalities speaking about shared services and trying to take some of the bite out of these escalating taxes that are going on every year in our lives. So I'll be there, and anybody else from the council would like to go, free to come with me. And Mayor, I'd like to buy you dinner over Johnny Carino's after the meeting.
Sure. All right, we're going to go at this point right to hearings of citizens. This is the portion where any topic can be discussed by a member of the community. We have several folks that have signed in. If you've not signed in, just simply come on up and we'll add your name to it. Just as a reminder, from a parliamentary perspective, because there are so many people who want to get recognized at every meeting. We have a 5-minute time limitation. We would just ask that you be conscious of that so that your fellow neighbors will all have an opportunity to speak and be heard as well. So the first person whose name is on the list is Grace Abramoff. Ms. Abramoff, good to see you.
Nice to see you, too. I'm sorry to see you leave.
Thank you. And I see Vic. How are you?
Yeah, Vic.
Good to see you.
Vic came. Has to be very important.
It's got to be trouble when Mr. Abramoff is here.
Gotta be important for Vic to come.
Well, how can we help you tonight?
Well, I'm not going to talk in specifics about Yellowbrook Road, but I've been trying to fight COA for about 20 years. Little ways. Writing letters is a wonderful thing, but if it's only one person writing them, forget about it. I want to make one thing why you're pulling this off tonight is because of that 6-acre designation. Last month, Mr. Bongiovanni, when the lawyers were here for Harms and Hall Construction, specifically corrected, and it should be in your minutes, that it was wrong, that the area is designated ARE2, not ARE6. So that was in the minutes. Now, my question is, number one, who wrote this ordinance? Who wrote it?
Sure. Mr. Schlegel, I mean, there were many people involved in this. Who was the primary author?
It was a combination of my office with the planner's office.
And you
from
are, sir?
Birdsall. I am Andrew Bayer, the affordable housing attorney.
Okay. You wrote it. Who reviewed it?
Well, generally, a couple things, Mr. Abramoff. The clerk's office really finishes and prepares and gets the document ready from a procedural perspective, but we do rely, from a technical point of view, on the attorneys to make sure that the documents...
Our attorney, Mr. Bongiovanni, or the affordable housing?
It would be both. It was
Okay, now
both.
that makes me wonder, if Mr. Bongiovanni corrected the lawyers here last month and specifically said that the maps were wrong, and the maps are always wrong, when are they going to get fixed? That's another story. But if he specifically corrected the attorneys at last month's meeting that the maps were wrong and it should be ARE2, why wasn't that corrected when you were writing the ordinance so that this meeting could go on tonight? As advertised, and people come out, they make a pointed effort to be here, and now you pull this at the 11th hour, or maybe the 12th hour, and tell us that it was written incorrectly. Well, you know what? That doesn't sit too well when you want to fight COA, and you can't get people to write an ordinance correct, and you're paying these professionals to do it. I mean, I heard it last month. How many other people heard it, other than me, that it was ARE2? And you couldn't get it right for an ordinance tonight. That's a sad bunch of errors. And you're going to fight people? You're shaking your heads. I have one lawyer there, one lawyer there. Sometimes we have too many lawyers and not enough common people to understand what's going on here.
Mr. Baer, please, we'll have you recognized.
Mr. Mayor, while it was certainly discussed on the record at the last meeting about the issue of whether it was ARE6 or ARE2, from a legal perspective, the notice also contained an ARE6, the advertisement, and given the interest in this ordinance and the threats of litigation, we wanted to ensure that the council had it right and not, if we're going to get sued over the ordinance, not lose it on a procedural issue, which is why we'd recommended correcting it, so that because while people here understood that it was ARE2, there were people out who may have read the advertisement wouldn't have
Okay, now
known
who
that.
wrote the advertisement?
The advertisement, Mr. Baum, it's a great point, but the advertisement is literally a duplicate copy of the ordinance. It's one and the same.
It's sad. It is so sad that this happens when something so important in our future is about to take place, that you can't get a simple little thing correct. How are you going to get the big things right if you can't get the little things right? That's point one. Point two, remember one thing about this whole COA. It took only one woman in Mount Laurel to change the face of New Jersey. And I'm sure there's a lot of smart people here, and I know they're much smarter than me. If it took one woman to change it, maybe it can take 2 or 3 people to reverse it. and get the right people to go and fight. Who is COA? Who are they? It's an autonomous body of people. Who are these people? Do you know who they are?
Mayor, that's been 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've been down there once in previous litigation we've had in Howell Township and had to sit in a room with about 15 attorneys, 4
There's
or
your
5 of them
mistake
from
right there,
COA.
15 attorneys.
Well, somebody had to go down there and represent Howell.
And one quick thing.
Okay.
The one thing that's also I find disturbing in Howell Township over the past 40 years that I've lived here is the continuity of people. You have lawyers come and go, you have planners come and go, you have counsel come and go, and there's no one here except the residents of Howell to have to live with your decisions. Please remember that when you make them. You may be residents here today, but will you be here 40 years from now like I have been?
I hope, God willing.
That you're going to live with the choices you make to
All right, Mrs.
represent
Ball.
us.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your comments. Good to see you. We have Marion and William Bosa, or Basa. If I pronounce that incorrectly, I apologize. You're coming up alone. All right, we just need you to please give us your name and address for the record. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening.
If you just pull that microphone as close to your mouth as possible, we can get you on the recorder,
Okay,
please.
this, Marion Bossett, 9 Laurel Crest Drive.
Welcome.
Hello. I had a meeting, we were concerned, someone brought it to my attention in my neighborhood, that my home was on ordinance 26. It's on the agenda. I think it's
Okay, so you're talking about 8A3?
Yes, I am.
From 8A3, this is an ordinance that is slated for a public hearing tonight. And we're welcome to have your comments, but
Oh,
now
okay.
isn't the time
Oh, I'm
to enter.
sorry, I
No,
wasn't
that's not your
familiar
fault
with
at
it.
all. It's okay. Procedurally, we have to have a special hearing on
Excuse
any
me,
of those
Mayor?
items that are ordinances.
I'm sorry.
And that's being polled as
Yeah,
well, is it not?
if you remember.
Yeah,
I'm
8A3.
sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. 8A3 is not going to be acted on this evening, and if it comes up again, there will be a special hearing on that. And since you had concerns, Mrs. Schlegel, would you please get in touch with Mrs. Bossadamora with regard to how her property may or may not have been on that, just to clear the air?
Absolutely.
I did have a meeting with Mr. Davis. He was kind enough to
Okay.
meet with me and said that it would be canceled, but I'm just here to ensure that it is.
It is being
Because
canceled.
our house is not foreclosure. We've been paying
No, no,
taxes
that-
for 12 years.
Good.
Your particular lot is off the list.
Oh, it
Terrific.
did come off?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was removed.
And it's not even
Okay.
being acted on at all this evening anyway.
Great.
So
We
nice
can
to see
leave.
you. You're welcome to stay if you like.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Cancel the moving truck.
This looks like Kathy Patino. Did I get that correct? Okay. All right, well, thanks for coming out. Bob Tice, Mr. Tice. Good evening, Mr. Tice, welcome. If you could just give us your name and address for the record officially, please.
Bob Tice, 225 Merrick Road. Basically, I'll take about 2 minutes of your time here. I'm coming here to speak on behalf of the July 10th meeting when I was here speaking. It has been interpreted that I was speaking on behalf of an organization, Adelphia Fire Company, and other organizations in this town. I just want to make it clear for the record that I was speaking for myself, Robert Tice, as a taxpayer of 225 Merrick Road. No other organizations was I representing at that time, and that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Appreciate your reading into the record. Thank you very much. Okay. The next name, I'm just going to, I can't make out the first name. The last name is Fordfield. I apologize. Is your first name Ken, sir? Ken. It is Ken. Welcome, Mr. Fordfield. Good evening. If you just give us your name and address officially
Yes,
for the record.
Kenneth
Looks like you
Fordfield.
got some help.
Yeah. If that's
So you're all
okay.
together. Come on up. Are you Mrs. Mallet and Mrs. Piper?
Mrs. Mallett. This is Mrs.
Okay.
Piper.
Okay. Good evening, folks.
Hi. Ken Bordfeld. I live at 218 Colts Neck Road, the corner of Colts Neck and Cranberry Roads. And I wanted to speak to the council tonight because a while back we had spoken to the board about the road widening that the county wanted to do. Then it just disappeared. Now we're getting letters from Centex's attorney saying they're going to enact eminent domain and take the property from us. I've gone to the county planning board. They've said absolutely not. They're not enacting eminent domain. Yet we have a document, and I can give you a copy of the whole timeline if that's...
Please, sure.
There's, in the back, there is a document from the county saying that they will enact eminent domain.
That was the last time.
You know,
Just before you continue for once, Mr. Nunziato, Mrs. Schlegel, can I ask Mr. Nunziato?
Yes, sir.
Cranberry Road a county road or township road?
County road.
It is county, yes.
Cranberry is?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Basically...
We're just having some copies made of that.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Basically, what the county is saying is they want to put in a turning lane on Colts Neck Road and to make the road safer. I've lived on the corner of Colts Neck and Cranberry for 15 years. Just about any accident I've ever seen has been because somebody's run the stop sign on Cranberry Road.
Sure.
If you want to make it safer, I mean, I know this is the county, but if they want to make it safer, what they need to do is put a larger stop sign, possibly put a four-way stop, put a sign a little further down the road that says stop ahead. The whole idea of a turning lane doesn't make sense to me, but my concern is this eminent domain. The county's telling us they won't do it, yet we have paperwork of the county saying they are going to do it. When we speak to the people at the county planning board, they basically lie to our faces.
Mrs. Schlegel, it looks like, do you have any updated information on this?
No, I don't have any updated information. As you know, since it's a county road, that puts us in a predicament because we really have no jurisdiction. But I'm wondering if possibly if they went to the freeholders could help them in this situation.
We've done that already.
Oh, you have?
So you've been to the freeholder board as well. You went to the meeting of the Board of Chosen Freeholders? And what answer did they give you?
Well,
The one time they wouldn't let us speak at all. They told me to be quiet.
yeah, she raised her hand to speak, and they...
Which
They
freeholder
said we
was
were at
that?
the wrong meeting when we were personally invited to this meeting to go to it.
This
They told us
was
to
the
sit down.
planning board meeting when Centex
Planning
was-
board,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, this was a planning board meeting where we were invited to the meeting to speak, and when Tracy raised her hand, they told her to put her hand down. She wasn't permitted to speak.
We took the day off to work to go to this meeting, and they told us, oh, sorry, wrong
Would you
day.
mind, Mrs. Mallett, would you just introduce yourself officially, your name and address for the record?
Tracy Mallett, 214 Cranberry Road,
Thank you.
corner of Colts Neck.
Okay.
I mean, basically, I don't know if the township is aware that this is happening, and is there anything we can do about it, or are we just subject to the whims of the
Well,
county?
here's what I'd like to recommend for the council's consideration, is that we draft a letter that should go to the county indicating that it's been brought to our attention by our constituents that there are some inconsistencies regarding this matter, that we're not aware of any eminent domain proceeding, that our residents have been given mixed information as it relates to this in an eminent domain point of view. We're not in favor, obviously, of eminent domain or these potential changes, and we would ask for the county council to very specifically respond to this issue with resolution once and for all, and that letter should go to the Board of Chosen Freeholders, Mr. Gray, the clerk, their county council, and I think we should also copy on that Senator Singer and Assemblyman Malone and Dancer and the council and I, and get that to them tomorrow, and ask for a response, within 2 or 3 business days, and copy these 3 families as well, and then let's follow that up with a phone call and say, this is a pretty scary situation for these folks to be in. We need some answers.
It's also...
Anyone agree with this? You guys okay with this, Mrs.
Fine,
Schulman?
Mayor.
Mrs. Dalton, you're
It's fine.
Mr. Howell?
Absolutely, man.
It's also a major safety issue, doing anything to that road now. It's already a major problem, and the value of our homes will be worth absolutely nothing if they put
Yeah.
this road in my front door, because that's where it's going to be.
Okay. Well, we will certainly use all of the resources at our disposal on your behalf
Thank
to
you.
champion this cause and advocate for you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
I just want to
Mr. Nunziato? Sure.
just correct the record, if I may. There has been a little bit of correspondence that has come through my office. This is actually part of the Colts Neck Crossing, when they did the improvements. This was a county requirement. And, Mr. Howell, for the record, Colts Neck Road is actually the county. Cranberry is a township
Tower Road.
okay?
That's what I
But
thought.
since it is an intersection that has county and local jurisdictions, this is their requirement. There was a set of notices, I believe I've saw a copy of an older one that went out for an appraisal or an offer to purchase some
Right,
certain
exactly.
properties a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Then it did go away, and I don't know if it's now the second owner, which is Centex, that has
Centex,
come back
yes.
in, and I've heard it's because of the new assessments or appraisals that had to be done, but this is something that the county has requested as a, long-term capital improvement for, the future traffic that would be generated there. So that's how it came about.
One second, we'll get to Mr. Walsh, you had a question?
Council, do we have any say over our own roads?
Our road.
I mean, Cranberry Road, obviously, if you're taking property into starts Colts Neck and Cranberry, that's a township road. Do we have any say at all, or does the county get to overrule us and do whatever they want?
Bill, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I want to actually, I wish we would have had a little bit of opportunity to actually research this, but that's something that I would certainly look into for you. At this point, I don't know the specifics of what the requirements are for their widening. But in cases, for instance, at 524 in Fairfield, there was the same type of thing where the traffic light went in, and that took, 6 months or a year to actually get to the acquisition point for those people on the corners of Fairfield. So there is a process.
Yeah, they did the same thing. Actually, that's a good example. They did the same thing to that corner house on 524 at Fairfield Road.
But did they purchase the property from the homeowner there?
I really don't have that
I
information. I believe they did.
So they negotiated
They
a
generally
sale.
make an offer, yeah.
Yeah, a low offer, and it ruins the value of your home.
Okay. Ms. Piper, do you have a comment? Would you just introduce yourself for the record?
Elaine Piper, 230 Colts Neck Road, Farmingdale. What I want to say, this all stems from putting the 55 and over, and all these people here that don't want that to go on Yellowbrook Road, it's the same thing. They say things change. Now, we were never told about them putting in the 55 and over. You know what went on with all that.
Oh, I know what went on
Right,
with
you
that.
do, right. And we were never told, nobody even told us about it. We didn't know anything about it. And now they said we didn't have to tell you because you weren't within 500 feet.
200
of those,
feet.
200 feet of those homes. But now it's affecting the three of us.
Right.
And they want to take our property because they said all these people need to go down Cranberry Road to get in on the south side. And yet they're closer to Yellowbrook Road. Why aren't they going in Yellowbrook Road?
Mayor,
Mrs. Sherlake, you have a comment?
we're breaking our own rules, but I feel compelled to ask the
Yeah.
question to Mr. Nunziato, if you're permitted.
Please.
Mr. Nunziato, correct me if I heard you wrong. Did you say that it was part of the approval that the county said that had to be done?
That's my understanding from discussions with Board Engineer Peters, that was a requirement that the county had requested, yes.
So what I need, Mayor, through the manager, is we need to see the approvals. We need to see the final approval on that.
The reso.
Yeah. Find out exactly if that was part of the approval for the county and how that is worded, and if so, how that came through the planning board.
It wouldn't come through the Township Planning Board. This is actually the County Planning Board that did their review, based on the county roads.
But that would have been piggyback on, no? Why?
No. Mr. Showmaker, Mayor, if I could.
Please, go right ahead.
Part of the approval for the Township Planning Board was that Colts Neck Crossing was Centex, as it was later purchased by, needed to gain outside agency approvals. So the reso was written, and it was memorialized here, and then they needed to go to the county and get the county to approve it.
My point is, we don't review the outside approvals to see exactly what they're approving?
No, I think once we write the reso, and then it goes to the county's in charge of it, because it was basically all of the infrastructure work, the water and the sewer lines were going on county roads. Isn't that correct, Mr. Nunziato? You weren't right up Colts Neck Road?
Actually, it went across Cranberry, it went through the easements back through Crystal Creek and across.
What's the one that went all the way up Cranberry? All the way up Colts Neck Road?
There was a part that went up Cranberry, and then a part that did go up Colts Neck, yes.
Unless something's changed since I've been on the planning board, they get their outside approvals prior, at some point during
No,
the hearing.
I think what it says now, what I remember is that it says, the reso is contingent upon you gaining outside agency approvals. So if Centex and Mr. Alfieri were able to go to the county and get the county to say, yeah, we'll steal the land from these people so you can have a bigger road.
That's exactly what it was.
I think, Mrs. Shoemaker, to your point, what you're thinking of are the approvals that might be required from the DEP, the soil issues.
Right.
There are certain outside agency approvals that are required before the board can take action. Then there are these codependency approvals that happen downstream, water, sewer, where the planning board makes their approvals contingent all those things would happen. So I think it's a combination of both. It sounds like in this case, and Mr. Barrett, you could probably comment on this from a planning board point of view, since you're here, if you don't mind, is would a municipality generally, the way that the Deputy Mayor is describing this, all these downstream things that need to be approved, other agencies, counties and what have you, they happen downstream and the approving municipality is not necessarily involved. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely. The local approvals are generally, planning board approval would generally be contingent upon all outside agency approvals. As you mentioned, whether it's state, county, depending what the issues are.
Okay. Well, I think the council's direction is clear. We want Mrs. Schlegel to get that letter out immediately, get these calls made. We have your contact information. We certainly agree with you. This would be just another act of stupidity on top of all of the other stupidity that's happened with Colts Neck Crossing. So you certainly have our assurances we're going to do everything we can to help you.
Mayor, could I ask that maybe Mrs. Schlegel could also ask representative from the county planning board and the county council's office to be at our September 9th workshop meeting to try to explain why they're trying to do this?
I certainly have no, I mean, hopefully we'll get some answers before then, but if the answers are unsatisfactory, then I think we want them here. We all agree with that?
Okay?
That's a great
Let's get
recommendation.
some information first.
That would
Okay.
be very helpful because, like I said, when we go to the county, they will tell us one thing, and then we'll get a letter from the developer's attorney saying the exact opposite, and we just don't know where to turn anymore.
Okay. Well, we'll certainly give you our help.
Thank you very much.
Does it matter that that deal was made with the county and Crawford Holdings? Does that matter?
It really, it doesn't.
Uh-huh.
There are a lot of deals on Colts Neck Crossing, believe me.
I know.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
consideration.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McCullum, Ron McCullum? Are you here? Ron McCullum.
I don't see him there.
Okay. Mrs. Smith, good evening, welcome, come on up.
Should I wave a finger at me?
Good evening, Mrs. Smith. Would you just give us your name and address for the record, please?
You all know I'm Pauline Smith. And don't forget it. I've been here longer, spent more hours in this room than each of you have probably lived in Howell Township and working for this township. I am appalled at what happened. I am sorry for the Historical Society, and I will not be satisfied until I get a personal apology publicly to the society. I am so hurt, I can't tell you. I didn't notice a change in the card, and I want more than 5 minutes. I don't care if it takes me half an hour.
Mrs. Smith, the rules are the same for everybody. We're going to stick to our...
Everybody isn't accused the way you accuse everyone, 5 of you, accuse the Historical Society of wrongdoing. In the first place, Mr. Walsh, I am personally, publicly, and for the society appalled. You have been a very supportive, kind gentleman, good to the society in every way and understanding. If you noticed that something last month wasn't right, why the hell didn't you contact the editor? All the information is in the newsletter. Any Anybody would have done that. That's the normal thing to do. Now, for the public and for your edification, I think I should explain about these cards on the back. They are depictions of business cards for convenience. We are amateurs after all. The editor of they represent a $50 donation or higher. Mr. Walsh has been very generous, as I said, and we have appreciated it. It was a fundraising idea many years ago by a former member. Instead of the $10 or $15 membership, which is single or family, it's called a patron membership. It is a membership to the society. As far as Mr. Walsh's change, I happen to, I'm assuming, but I'm assuming it's pretty, my assumptions are accurate. I happen to be, this year, as well as my many other duties to the society, I happen to be chairman of trustees, which means I'm basically in charge. The buck stops here. We're in charge of Bill's responsibility, the money that's taken in, the money that goes out, things are done properly. And as such, I get mail directed to the society. Usually, membership renewal and donations go to the treasurer, membership chairman, same person. She didn't recognize an envelope, and it came to me. And it had the letterhead and this business, which is Center State Mortgage and all the information that go with it. Is that not your business, Mr. Walsh? Is that correct? This is your business, this is the address, this is the information.
That's his home phone number.
Cell number.
Whatever is on there came off of the information that was in that envelope. The check came from that envelope. It was, it came from the check. The information came from the check. Why would we?
That's, Mrs. Smith, I got it. That's an exact duplicate of a business card, except the name was blocked off for the last 2 months.
The name was not blocked off. The name was not on the information in that way. It was an error.
It's okay. In June, it was, my business card was there with my name. In July, my business card was there without my name. No problem. It's okay. God bless you. I'll send more money to the Historical Society next year.
It's not okay. You know what? You roll that off your tongue, but that's a personal comment. I'll make that to you another time. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you were inconvenienced. I'm sorry that the 5 of you didn't pick up the telephone or even officially through the manager say, get what's going on here. No, you had to make a public disgrace of the society, an accusation.
Mayor, that's been 5 minutes.
Been political. We will never be political. Mr. Boland kindly also has been supportive. He's been eating my canned goods and baked goods for years that he's bought for the society fundraiser, just the way you have, Mr. Walsh. A member decided in our recent, let's be fair. You are the chairman, but let's be fair. Accusations have been made.
We have many, many meetings.
Either you accept my explanation.
Okay.
Or you let me go on.
I accept your explanation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Let me finish the one little bit about Russ. Mr. Boland,
Mrs. Smith.
were we supposed to reject his $50 because he's running for mayor?
Okay.
God bless Mr. Boland.
Okay, Mrs. Smith, we appreciate your comments. In fairness, I've held everyone to the same time parameters.
Yes, but in fairness, They were not accused of wrongdoing
Mrs.
from the
Smith,
dais.
were-
I'd like to know that everybody's comfortable with my explanation.
Mrs.
I'm
Smith.
not comfortable with it
Here,
at all.
here is...
Okay, tell me why,
No, no,
and
no,
I
okay.
want it out right
Mrs.
now.
Smith, Mrs. Smith,
Look,
respectfully.
I have been...
Mrs.
no,
Smith, I have
respectfully to you. You
Mrs.
give
Smith.
me no respect at all.
Mrs. Smith,
Over
I have
the
to
last
respectfully-
6 years, you have made accusations against me. When you've been proven wrong, you have never...
Mrs. Smith, I'm not going to allow you to get into a personal diatribe against me. I am a chair, you just said that I've had issues with you for the last 6 years. I'm going to ask you to take a moment and calm down. As chair of this meeting, in the time that I have been mayor, I have gone out of my way, always, to be respectful of every resident. Let me finish. Every
Never let
resident.
me finish.
You're making my case, Mrs. Smith.
No, I'm not. I'm making...
Mrs. Smith, I go out of my way as chair of this meeting to recognize every individual, no matter what their position is, no matter what their views are, because it's my responsibility to ensure there is an open forum in this community. You have been afforded all of the privileges and all of the rights due you pursuant to this Township Council's provisions regarding public hearings during the regular session. That's 5 minutes. Every one of your neighbors is able to comply with those requirements. I'm not believing that you are entitled to any special procedures this evening. We have a 5-minute rule. We've heard your explanation. The matter is being reviewed. That's it. I'm going to ask you, please, take your seat. The next person is due to speak.
Well,
Mrs. Smith, I don't want to have to ask you again.
I have one more comment.
We're taking a 5-minute recess.
My name was there, and I...
Doing. And now what they did, they filed again. The trial, quote, for the proposed 23 point something or other percent, 23.5% raise, is supposed to start taking place in September in Newark. I hope to attend that every day. I guess I have to buy a 10-trip ticket and go to, like I'm going back to work. Anyway, though, but I have to be there because we just, for our people, for our constituents, for the villages, for people who are paying $300 and $400 a month for water bills. And now they're telling us they filed something else, these two things, that will start being heard in October. What is going on? I keep saying we are being taken to the cleaners, literally. I had my water tested again privately for another $350 last week from a recognized analytical water testing service in the area. This is the third time I've had it done. Again, I have high trihalomethanes, which are chloroform, bromodichloromethane, and dibromochloromethane in fairly high amounts. And I had each sink in my house tested separately, so there was a lot of money. One of my sinks tested 72. Well, guess what? The DEP level for trihalomethanes is 80. That's high. We're drinking this stuff, and they're charging us astronomical amounts of money. Now, I do have a reverse osmosis filter that was put in by a water treatment company, and I had the filter changed last week because it gets changed once a year. I'm going to change it more than once a year now. It was black, and I took it to the meeting with me last night. This thing is nasty. It's a cylinder this long, it's heavy, it's black. So if this is the garbage we're drinking, we're getting stuck paying for this. They want an increase. Now they filed some other kind of stuff. What are they doing? Somebody has to get some answers for us. And what I will suggest, and I'm going to say it out loud, whoever has any kind of strange water, whether it be from American Water or any other area water company, it needs to be filtered.
Mayor, that's been 5 minutes.
I'm sorry, you need a carbon filter. And what I suggest you do is, if you don't want to go and you're not going to buy a reverse osmosis filter, because it's very expensive, it was like $500 or something, buy a Brita filter. And for God's sake, keep it on your faucet at all times, because
Thank
it's
you, Mrs.
important.
Dixon.
Now, I really mean that. Somebody has to get us some answers. Write some letters, do something. We're being taken to the cleaners.
We agree with you. All right, thank you for your
Thank you.
comments,
More
Mrs.
than- I
Dixon.
think you know that,
Excuse me, sir?
that the mayor and I
No, I sincerely appreciate,
Mrs. Slagle. We've been
but I just
contacted
wanted
so
to get
many
this
times.
out in the public again.
Okay.
Thank you.
We appreciate all your help with this issue. Thank you, Mrs. Dixon.
And I've given out all the
Courtesy.
testing information to everybody. They've all got it. This is nasty stuff.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Dixon. Good evening, welcome. Come on up. Just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Mark Warzine, 30 Lions Court. Mayor,
Warzine,
council,
good evening.
good evening. Make this short. In reference to your ordinance for individuals being deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, I recommend you make an adjustment to say reserve and guard individuals mobilized in support of the global war on terrorism. The reason I'm saying that is individuals who are mobilized and go to the Pentagon are not covered by that ordinance. Individuals who are mobilized and go to Fort Bliss to train people to go to Iraq and Afghanistan are not covered. Individuals who are mobilized and deployed to Guantanamo Bay in Germany and Kuwait are not covered by your ordinance.
Can I ask a favor, Mr. Corzine? Could you email Mrs. Schlegel, because you got the wording, obviously. Would you be so kind as to email to the manager the suggested wording, and we will obviously amend that ordinance pronto? Would you?
Okay.
You wouldn't mind doing that?
No, not a problem.
Mrs. Schlegel, will you be on the lookout? It's
I
a great
agree. That's
idea.
a great recommendation.
You know, at the time the time we brought that up, this is going back, way back when, the focus was obviously there, but you're right, it's expanded, we want to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We can do for our troops.
All right, that's going to close the general public portion.
Mayor, there was one more
Oh, I
resident.
apologize. It's one more resident, okay?
It's
I don't have-
Joyce.
Joyce Mustafa, I believe. I'm sorry, I'm probably
have the
pronouncing it wrong.
Okay, one more person, I apologize. Come on up, welcome. If you just give us your name and address for the record. I'm sorry, I did not know.
Okay. My name's Joyce Marufo, Riataman Ranch, 27 West Farms Road in Howell.
Good evening, welcome.
Okay. Now, in response to all this, when we first got the farm, we came down and we talked with Vito for permits and everything. There was nothing available in this town. My husband's a rodeo promoter. He's done it all his life. He's fifth-generation rodeo promoter, bull rider. We go all over the country and do this. We've never had a problem anywhere else except in the town where I sit and pay my taxes, all right? Mr. Bongiovanni represented us because you closed down our rodeos for 2 months. We lost deposits in the thousands. Mr. Bongiovanni represented us. We went in front of the Ag Board. The Ag Board came out. They viewed our rodeos on several occasions. They said we are a commercial farm and the rodeos fall under the right to farm and music is acceptable because this is the way it is all over the United States. Nobody around here is familiar with this. That's why everyone is all crazy. The music never goes above the decimal, so I heard. I never knew anyone ever came out and tested it before. I always questioned that, okay? The other thing is that it closes down. We have security that's there. They search everybody. Alcohol's not allowed on the premises. The security is a reputable company. They're police officers. They carry badges. Okay, we've never had problems on that property. It's not one of your elite farms that you're going to find with your PVC fence and your beautiful grass that your little rich kid is dumped off and trots around a circle while their mother goes and has her nails done. This is a real working farm. And what you're going to do, you pinched it so hard over there with a couple people that have complained. And we only have 6 rodeos a year. In the warm weather, once a month, that you're going to close down a whole operation and make it impossible for us to survive because this is our main income. And I wish Mr. Bongiovanni was here tonight, okay? My other neighbors, I have no problems with them. They come for nothing. They come for nothing on this farm. Unfortunately, my husband's not here right now to stand up to defend himself. I will be at the September 9th workshop. Where will that be located?
Here in this chamber.
And what time will that be?
7:30 is when the public portion will begin.
Okay. All right. I know the Ag Board has films of our rodeo and stuff, and we fall under a commercial farm. You don't have too many commercial farms in this area. You have boarding facilities, which I would also add are getting the right to farm tax exemption, and they're not producing livestock. They're just boarding horses. Okay? They're not producing. Like, we raise cattle, we have chickens, we have eggs. We meet the criteria tremendously. I'd like to see some of these other farms, if you go out there and walk their property and see what they're doing, if they really meet the criteria.
Okay. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. You're going to be the last person we recognize. Come on up. Just give us your name and address for the record. I'm sorry.
My name's Ed Capilla. I live at 34 West Farms. My home is directly across the street from Joyce and Juan's farm. And from the day I moved in, I've never met nicer people, more helpful people. They welcomed us to the neighborhood, and I have no problem with their rodeos. I have no problems with their cattle. I have no problems with their music. It's great to see that people are actually doing something in life rather than walking into malls. As Mr. Walsh knows, I was very involved with the town and our kids and sports, athletics. I think we need more of this in our country. And if people can't get over having a little bit of noise on a Sunday, I actually enjoy it. I have no problem with it. The gentleman that spoke earlier lives on the corner. I have more problems with his roosters getting away from his place and crowing at 5 o'clock in the morning under my bedroom window. And that's in all honesty. That chicken or rooster that he has over his place that broke loose drives me crazier because they're operating their rodeo during normal hours. I watched the security there. I mean, they had one this past Sunday. They had at least 5 police officers or security people out front. I watched them opening trunks. I watched them examine everything that they possibly can. After the rodeo every week, they are walking the streets. Juan and Joyce, it's mostly Juan, he's out there picking up garbage if anybody threw anything out in front of my house. So I and Juan would like to go on record as saying, I have no problems with them. And let's let people live their lives and enjoy lives in this country and stop looking over the fence and telling everybody else because, that they're not conforming to their style. Well, I'm sorry. That's why I'm living in the United States. I want some kind of freedom, and I think these people deserve it. And I think they should stop being harassed. All right? Thank you.
We appreciate
Said
your
my
comments.
piece, and I'll be here on the 9th.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right, that's going to close the regular public portion. We're going to go back to our agenda. I want to call the council's attention to our consent agenda items. I want to remind the council, this is both a combined...
Yes.
You want to do that right now?
Yeah.
Okay. This
Mayor,
is a
before
combined workshop and regular session, but you need the floor, Mr. Howell?
Yeah, Mayor, if I could I just request that we have a quick executive at the conclusion of the meeting?
At the conclusion of the meeting?
Yes.
Sure, okay, we'll certainly do that.
For?
Litigation.
Okay, we're going to go first to consent agenda items. These are items that are appropriately marked with an asterisk. Mrs. Schlegel, before we start, is there any item that needs our attention to be pulled tonight from consent agenda?
Got notes on that?
No. Just send it.
Okay.
Mayor, if I can ask the
No,
question.
Mayor, nothing from the consent.
Nothing to be pulled. Mrs. Showmaker, you have a
On
question?
9B16, the public auction, how is that being conducted? Are we doing that on the internet, or however we talked about that at some point, or how are we doing that?
Hold on one second. So the question is on 9B16.
This is a Standard auction.
What?
So would you describe for Mrs. Showmaker the standard auction?
Yeah, so the council's aware. So the council's aware the auction is scheduled for October 10th. We had a change after the agenda was printed, which is the following Friday, so it's, and it's the standard auction down in Public Works.
We are using propertyroom.com, but this particular case is being a regular auction. I believe it's,
Vehicles.
yeah,
Okay.
bicycles, vehicles, mostly vehicles.
Let's just go back right to page 5, and we'll go through all of them. Any questions on page 5? This would be Articles 9B1 to 9B6. Any questions on 9B1 to 9B6? Okay, moving along. Page 6. Any questions on 9B7 to 9B11? Questions on 9B7 to 11? Okay, hearing none, moving on. Page 7, 9B12 to 9B16. I think there's one correction in 9B16. The date is actually Friday, October 10th, not the 3rd.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments on 12 to 16?
Just 9B15, that's the piece of property we've had numerous correspondence from in the last few years,
Yes, it is.
like the last 15.
That's correct.
What we're going to do, Mr. Boland, because this is a joint workshop and agenda meeting. After we go through them, we're going to open it to the public to make sure, before we take any action on these resolution items. We'll come right back to you. Okay, anything on page 8, 9B17 to 9B22? 17 to 22. Okay. Page 9 is 9B23 to 27. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I would like to make a public statement that I am a member of Eagle Oaks Golf Club. I don't want anybody to think that I'm not a member or say that I voted on something. Should I recuse myself from that because I'm a member of the golf club?
You want to have a separate vote on that?
I'd like to have a separate
Okay.
vote on that.
We'll have a separate vote on 9B26. Okay, on page 10, Articles 9B28 to 9B33. Any questions or comments? Once we go through them, we're going to open to the public because we will be taking action this evening. Any questions on 28 to 33? Okay. 9B34 to 9B38. Any questions or comments? 34 to 38.
Are the performance guarantees and the maintenance guarantees have been satisfied? Mayor, if you want to address Mr. Nunziano on all these?
Sure. Mr. Nunziato, to your satisfaction, there's a variety of these here with regard to escrow funds and the like. Is your office validated as is normal course?
Yeah, what typically happens, Councilman Shoemaker, is the performance guarantee is released and it's substituted in its place a maintenance guarantee, which will give you 2 more years. So yes, they have been reviewed and accepted by our office. There's one case where we've requested a supplemental landscaping bond, but the site improvements have been accepted. Therefore, when we do this, we can actually take over the roads and put them on a snow plowing list, if you will.
9B34, man.
9B34. Go right ahead, Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Nunziata, I believe we've spoken about this during budget meetings over the last couple of years. This seems like a higher number than we spoke about. Is that because of new regulations? I mean, why? I'd like a little help here.
Well, this was actually a Public Works, Mr. Kramer's contract, but nonetheless, my recollection was initially the funding was probably from 2005, 2006, and certainly, you know, with the price of steel and all the consumables attributable to it, it has gotten more expensive. In addition, we've put a couple options, if you will. For instance, there's going to be an extended roof that you can, an overhang that you could hang some of the equipment in. There's a cost associated with paving or prepping the property or the pad, if you will. And there's also, we do have to comply with the stormwater regulations, so that also increased the price somewhat.
Because I remember seeing the number tossed around during budget meetings at 250, 300,000. That was without the prep work and some of the add-ons and stuff.
Mr. Filiatro, you want to make a comment?
Just, so one thing I do recall, there was a separate project to run power out to the compound area for lighting, for security, and that was included, and that was incorporated into this contract. So there is, in the contract, they do have to run power to the salt building. So they're running that, they're going right past the salt building to the compound. So that's, where it's really two combined projects there.
Okay. I just remember the number, talked about during budget meetings. I just wanted to ask. Thank you very much.
All right, any other questions on items 34 to 38? Right, on page 12, 9B40 has been pulled. So we will not be acting on 9B40. Any questions on 39, 41, 42, or 43? Okay, and then on page 13, we've got 9B44. Any questions on 9B44? All right, we do have, under motions, 9C1 and 2. 9C1 is an appointment to Citizens Participation Group. The term expires 12/31/09, so there's a vacancy. And we've got correspondence from the Shade Tree Commission regarding absent members. And I would like to look at 9C2, this issue from the commission about absent members.
I looked earlier, and I believe there was a recommendation.
From Kathy.
9C2. We have a recommendation as it relates to there's a letter here from Mr. Davis, participation on the Howell Township Citizens Advisory. I guess this person has not attended the meetings and as a result is no longer. Thank you, Mr. Bear. Thank you very much. And apparently, so that's the vacancy. I think we've got a couple of applications in the back. Is the council disposed to act on these this evening? We got an application from Susan Schroeder-Clark, an application from Matthew Gilaro, along with a resume, and an application from Edward Guz with a resume, and an application from David Njen, Mike Polizito.
Didn't we have a recommendation from the Shade Tree?
Well, that's a different one. This is the Citizens Advisory Group first. Paul Sayer, Gregory Tamzarian. And those are the applications we have for folks that put in for the Citizens Participation Group. Would anyone like to nominate anyone to this organization?
Matthew Galero has expressed an interest in wanting to be on board. He's a fairly new resident, lived in Howell Township 7 years, and would like to participate and be active in the community. It's always nice to bring in new that wants to participate.
All right, Sue, you want to make that in the form of a motion?
Can do that.
I'll second it.
All right. Matthew Galaro. So we have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none, we'll close the nominations. We have a motion and we have a second. Roll call, please, on the appointment of Matthew Galaro to the Citizens Participation.
Yes. Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Welcome, yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. The second item is a memorandum we have from Kathy McKee, the chairperson of the Shade Tree Commission. The Shade Tree has brought to our attention that there are 3 individuals whose attendance has been a problem. I'm certain there are reasons why these folks are not able to attend these meetings, they're requesting their removals. 2 are alternates, 1 is a full member. And in all cases, as not to read this into the record, the attendance is certainly been problematic, to say the least. And so we all know the importance of the Shade Tree Commission. There are several individuals who have put in for nominations.
Mayor, Kathy-
Procedurally, do we need to first make
Accept
a motion
the-
and a second to remove those individuals?
I believe we do, from a procedural point of view, and I'll ask the attorney, do we need to provide these individuals with any due process? Are they entitled to a hearing with respect to their removals?
It is a commission.
Mayor, if I may,
Go
according
right
to the bylaws as such, after missing 3 meetings, they can be removed. Unless something's changed since I was on the Shade Tree. That's how that's what it was. But as a courtesy, it would be nice to send a letter stating that, due to absenteeism.
Yeah, I think
Because
we
it,
have to do that.
from the memos here from the chairperson, Kathy McKee, it's been some time since way back in October, of '07.
Yeah, we didn't send them a letter telling them they were off.
I mean,
I don't think they've missed it.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Dahl, go right ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to iterate that, with respect to the appointments we just made, it's clear that letters were sent and some form of communication was done. What are your intentions? And a confirmation. At least that's what it appears to me. It looks like a message was left or something saying no longer interested or whatever.
Right.
I'm not comfortable. I agree with the mayor. Sounding like a lawyer, I concern myself with due process, and I don't want to interfere with the Shade Tree Commission. It is very valuable, but I also don't want to put people in a position where they're, they may have an explanation. We don't know if absences are excused. I just don't think we operate like that.
Might I suggest that we ask the Shade Tree Commission to send a letter or find out if because it doesn't say what they're asking is they're requesting that we remove them. It doesn't say that they sent them a letter or notified them.
The clerk's office will send out a letter to the 3 members.
All right, so why don't we do this? The clerk's office should send them a letter indicating that your attendance is inconsistent with the policies and procedures of participation. Your committee has asked us for your removal as to ensure your rights have been protected. Perhaps there's some misunderstanding. Can you please get back to this office with your intent? If you prefer to resign, you may do so. Okay. You'll get us copies of those letters?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And if you can send a letter to Ms. McKee, that's how we're going to proceed, and then we can proceed at the following meeting
All right.
with her request.
At this time, we're going to open the meeting to anyone from the public who has a specific question on any of the resolution items that we're going to talk about. Mrs. Bromoff, ladies first, and I think Mr. Boland had his hand up as well.
I just would like an...
Would you just kindly again introduce yourself, Mrs. Bromoff?
Grace Abramoff, 26 Glenmore Road. I would just like an explanation on 9B.28 of...
9B28?
Right, where you're
Okay.
going to, for Ardena Acres. That's the development off of 524 next to the
Sure.
Bee School, am I correct?
Okay, it is.
I've complained about it in the past because of the school and along that portion of the development of those houses, that between the road and the curb, there's the shoulder where the storm drains lie. On this performance guarantee, is that the developer or is that the county who needs to fill that shoulder in and either lower the storm drains? I mean, if you raise the road, the water's still going to lay and not go in the storm drains. The storm drains are above the roadway. So when it rains, obviously, no water goes into the storm drains.
Where is she from?
It's 9B28. Mr. Mazzetto, can you comment on this? Do you know what Mrs. Abramoff
Do
is?
you know where I'm talking
The
about?
storm drains are on 524.
They're on 524. The ones by this development, I think there is two.
Yeah.
And it's between, and the road is not, they put the curbing in, the
developer.
the developer. And then you have the road. Who is responsible for where the shoulder is and the storm drains?
Well, unfortunately, if the shoulder is part of 524, that's the county's jurisdiction.
Okay, but the developer put in the curbing.
That's correct.
And
However,
who put the storm drains in?
the developer may have as well, too, but the township, it's similar to the discussion we had before, where there's two separate approvals and two separate little mini projects, if you will. The builder will do the little loop road and all the improvements to township standards.
Okay.
He also has to do a drainage approval for the county
Right.
on their right-of-way according to their standards. And it could very well be that that hasn't been completed yet on the county level.
Okay.
It's nothing to do with the township's local
Okay.
bond, but it's the
Okay.
county's.
Right.
County's issue.
Because even now today, still, there's, in front of the school, there's 3 storm drains, and they're working there. And I'm saying to myself, I want to stop in the morning. Can you guys fix these storm drains? Because the water doesn't drain, all the garbage accumulates, clogs up those storm drains, and the water just lays there. They are also above the road. So before you start giving money back to somebody, I would just like you to hold that out to see if you can get them to either lower the storm drains or
Mrs.
fill in
Dalton,
the
you had a
road.
question on this
Yeah,
point?
Mr. Nunziato or I'm confused. Which Ardina Acres are we talking about
The one
here?
by Ardina School.
I don't think that's the topic of this one. Am I wrong? This is Aldridge Woods.
I thought that that's what the name of that development.
Well, listen, I live in Ardina Acres. Mr. Walsh lives in Ardina
Okay.
Acres.
Don't
be telling people
Oh,
where I live.
never mind.
I know where you
There's
live.
7 Ardina Acres
I'm
in
sorry.
town.
Okay, well
I
then-
didn't think that this was the Ardina Acres off of
Well, the only reason I
Adelphia
think
Road.
it is because all of a sudden that big mound of dirt that was laying there for 2 years got distributed the other day, and grass was seeded.
You're talking about the one that's next to the school.
Right next to
Next
the
to
school.
Ardina School.
Right, so I don't know, is this that
No,
development?
that's Ardina Acres 4, but that's okay, because I know the
You
issue
still
you
know
were
what I'm
concerned.
talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay, fine, never mind.
Thank you, Mrs. Abramoff.
Good comments, though.
Mr. Boland, you have questions on resolution items? Go right ahead, sir.
Russ Bowen, 165 Belmar Boulevard. I was looking through your resolution packet, and 9B15 is a real head scratcher.
9B15,
Yes.
okay. Authorized sale of tax certificates, 80 Scenic Drive to the highest bidder. Boy, there's a long story behind this one.
Well, I'm just questioning the dates. Perhaps it's simply a typo, but it says Township Clerk received bids on July 14th. And as required by statute, a notice was published in the press setting forth the amount of the above bid, announcing the council would consider higher bids at their regular scheduled meeting of the 15th. How did you get the newspaper to hold the press till close of business on the 14th to have an ad in the paper for the 15th that says you're taking bids that day? It doesn't make sense.
The clerk is here, and Mr. Davis will give us an answer. You're checking it now. Why, do you have another one? We'll come back
Another
to
one
that.
while you're thinking about that.
Go right ahead.
9B34, a salt storage building for $440,000.
Yeah.
I had thought about this for a couple days, and I was tied up until just about 5 o'clock today. I got home, got on the computer, I Googled salt storage buildings. It comes up with a list of companies that do this kind of work. And I tried a couple, and they're closed because it's the time I tried to call. But I got an outfit on the phone from Pennsylvania. I said, explain about this, what, $440,000, what kind of salt storage building could you get for that kind of money? And I don't know, they said, what's the capacity? Mr. Nunziato, what capacity? does this
Excuse me, let me, I just would appreciate it if you didn't address them and address it to the manager.
Okay.
And then I'll address it to the appropriate professional.
so-
Actually, I'm going to look here because I may have that information in my packet. So if you can,
Give us 1 second. It's an awfully big salt dome, is the unfortunate answer. I also believe it went to the low bidder. Mr. Filiatro, is that right?
yes,
So it was publicly bid, went to the low bidder, and unfortunately, not all of these firms that are out there bid on governmental projects.
Mayor, I can give a description if you would like.
Please.
It was cleaning and preparation of the site, mobilization, demobilization, construct 80-foot by 80-foot salt storage building, complete per plans and specifications, including doors, bollards, and all incidental work within the building. Short salt storage shed main building, electrical, including interior work, lighting, service stub out, and 34-watt, 120, 280-volt electrical panel with a 200-amp main breaker. Salt storage building, additional roll-up door, including electrical work and bollards per plan. Salt storage shed left lean-to, building only. Hot mix asphalt pavement in main 80 foot by 80 foot building floor area. NJ DOT mix 1-2 base 3.5 thick, and New Jersey DOT mix 1.5 service course 1.5 inches thick. Salt storage shed right lean-to building. Dense graded aggregate sub-base 6 inches thick in main 80 foot by 80 foot building floor area. And there were some other couple of things in there, but that's basically it. It wasn't just for the building. We had like the electrical work, the floor, and all those things.
Mrs. Dalton, you had a comment as well?
Yes, and Mrs. Schlegel, we put that out to bid publicly, correct?
Yes, actually, if you recall, we had put it out to bid previously, and we had rejected all bids because they were too high, and then we rebid, and this is the low bidder.
And
The next closest bid is $526,376.
And the third one, the highest was
$774,823.
Yeah, part of the problem with this salt dome, not to digress, is when the stormwater management regulations were changed, we were required to, this is a salt village, in my estimation. It's got to have a certain footing, because the one we have today, what can happen is the salt will run off, it'll get into the stormwater, so this is one heck of a salt dome. And it's, I tell you, it really burns all our backsides. You got to spend almost $500,000 to build a salt dome.
Sounds like it's got custom baths and marble countertops.
Yeah, well, it doesn't go that far, but it's pretty darn close with what the state.
That's the $700,000 one.
What the state wants us to do. Back to your other one, Mr. Davis, can you comment?
Yeah, the process for this particular resolution was as follows. It was a three-part process. June 24th was the first council meeting date. Resolution number 1 was adopted, which justifies the sale. June 30th and July 7th, notice was published of the sale in the Asbury Park Press. In each issue 2 weeks prior to the date of the sale. July 14th, we received bids. July 15th, which was the second council meeting date, resolution number 2 was done that directs that bids received at sale be published in the Asbury Park Press in the week prior to the council meeting number 3, which is this meeting. August 5th, the bids that were received were published, and August 12th, tonight, is the third council meeting, as I said, and resolution number 3 is to accept or reject the bid. And that's where we are.
So which date is wrong in this? The third one here at the regularly scheduled council meeting of July 15th, the following bids were received, none? I mean, you couldn't very well advertise on the 14th that you received a bid for $20,000 and bidders are welcome to submit a bid on the 15th. That doesn't happen. It takes a couple days to get an ad in the paper, right?
What are you saying?
I believe Mr. Boland is saying that the resolution,
the dates
the date has the 15th,
Process
but you couldn't
Mr.
have done
Davis
it.
is correct.
Yes.
It appears as if the resolution
Is it-
may just reference an incorrect date. No?
No, it doesn't.
It's not,
The timeline was correct.
I'm just
Right,
paraphrasing
no, the
the
timeline-
inquiry. I'm not suggesting that that's the case.
I'm just,
Which reso are we talking about? We're talking about 3 different resos, so which reso are we talking about?
are you
Second, I
talking
guess.
about the one that's on for tonight, Mr. Boland?
Yeah, and my question is, how could you have an ad in the paper advertising that you'll entertain higher bids at the meeting of July 15th, that the maximum bid you got was $20,000, and you only got that bid the day before? You can't.
Because it was inserted that evening.
Pardon?
It was inserted the evening of the meeting
14th.
of July 15th. We had received bids on July 14th. The next day, the night of the council meeting, the resolution appropriately stated what we had received the day before.
But the council meeting's at night, the cutoff date for the newspaper is mid-afternoon. You can't call them midnight
What
on the
date of newspa-
14th.
What's the date of newspaper ad you're looking at?
You received the bid on the 14th.
He doesn't, Mr. Bowen, do you have a copy of the newspaper ad?
No.
It doesn't come in the newspaper. That bid didn't come via the newspaper.
I'm just going by what it says here.
Why don't you read it to us?
Again.
Okay.
right here.
Whereas pursuant to resolution such and such,
Already been asked and answered.
the township received bids on July 14th for the tax sale certificate of this property, the high bid being $20,000.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, good.
July
The
14th.
only bid.
Whereas, as required by statute, a public notice was published in the Asbury Park Press setting forth the amount of the bid, which you just got on the 14th, right?
That's correct.
And announcing the township would council, excuse me, and announcing that the township council would consider higher bids at their regularly scheduled meeting of July
Correct. The council would
15th.
accept higher bids at that meeting.
Nobody showed up that
Nobody
day.
came to submit any additional.
The
bids.
council meeting,
Was in the evening. So someone could have come here that night and made an alternate bid is really what that was.
That's
right, but how could you have it in the
Okay.
July 15th newspaper that you
No, no.
received a $20,000
It wasn't
bid
in
on
the
the
15th
14th?
newspaper.
Hmm?
It wasn't in the paper on the 15th.
That's correct.
It references the
required-
council meeting on the 15th.
As required, a public notice was published in the Asbury Park Press setting forth the
Okay.
amount of the above bid, which has to be the $20,000.
Go ahead.
What would you like us to do, Mr. Bowles?
I don't know, I'm just
I don't
asking.
know, yeah, just,
The dates don't make sense. Was it sufficient,
would you like us to change the date?
was there sufficient opportunity given for other interested parties to
Only about 10 years
top the
worth.
$20,000 bid?
Almost, only about 10 years worth.
But procedurally, from a procedure
Yeah.
point of view?
Mr. Davis, from your perspective, and I
There was
think,
absolutely, unequivocally nothing wrong with the procedure that was followed. It was laid out by Mr. Corman, if you remember. Mr. Corman, now Judge Corman, laid out this process for us, step by step, 3 resolutions, when to be advertised, when to be acted upon, right up to tonight. And we followed it every step of the way.
okay.
And this is where we are. It's up to you to make a final decision tonight. Either accept or reject the bid. That's all, that's what you
Yeah.
have to do.
Yeah, so my question was sufficient timing given the
It appears as if, I think
advertisement of the high bid with the opportunity for anybody to
It
top
was,
that.
publication dates were June 30th and July 7th.
so it was published in the paper on June 30th and July 7th. Okay.
Okay, well, then that's just a typo, the July 14th here.
I don't think
No.
anybody.
I don't think anybody ever said
about a
that.
typo.
No.
Was there a typo on July 14th?
No, we received
There
the
was no
bids on July
typo on July
14th.
So you received the bids on the 14th.
Thank you.
But does not
Okay.
preclude somebody from coming in with
And as a
something
result
tonight.
of that, someone could have come the very next night, which was a council meeting, and made
Or
a different
tonight.
bid. Or tonight.
With a
And that's
higher
what
bid.
that reference to the July 14th references.
And the
So
council
are you
has-
here to bid, Mr. Bowen?
Pardon?
Are you here to bid?
21,000 takes
I'm
it?
just
21 grand
I'm
takes
just
it.
saying, it's an impossibility that you received a $20,000
Well, there was
bid
no
on the
possibility.
14th, and it was in the paper on the 15th.
There was no possibility, Mr. Bowen.
Yeah, I think the key issue, Mr. Bowen, is it wasn't in the paper on the 14th. It was that was the date that they received the bid. And procedurally, someone could have come to the next 2 council meetings, one being July 15th, the next being tonight. And they could have entered in alternate bids at that time.
One final comment on
Sure.
the salt building. As I say, I called a company in Pennsylvania that does these sort of things, and they said they could put up a precast concrete wall, 40 feet wide by 100 feet long, 8 feet high, for about $30,000.
Is there a roof on it?
Mayor, if I may.
A roof would be about an additional $100,000.
I feel
and that
compelled
was
to
installed.
make a comment. Mr. Boland, this is not something that this council or the management or the township, for that fact, would like to spend almost $500,000. This is something that's being regulated under the new,
Understand.
and I know that you're very active in the community, so that you're probably very familiar with the stormwater
Yeah.
management. This is something that's being regulated by the state. In addition to that, our bids that, on contracts that we do have a structure that we need to go. There are certain guidelines that for bidding and things that have to, where they have to go out to bid under state regulations. So you just, there's a criteria, and you may want to familiarize yourself with that criteria. I'm sure that Ms. Slagle can provide that for you.
I'm just looking for opportunities to save money if we can go beyond the normal bidding procedure and solicit bids.
That would be a wonderful thing, but it's not.
Yeah, it's
violation of the
also,
law.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
violation of the law. We have to follow local public contract laws within the state of New Jersey, and there's like many rules that we have to follow. I am really confident that this was the lowest possible price that we could have gotten. We went out, this is actually, as I mentioned, the second time that we went out to bid for this. Sealed bids are submitted according to local public contract law. And like I said, it took us 2 times to actually get to a price that, was affordable for us, that we had the funds for.
When you put a bid...
Mayor, if I could, Mr. Schlegel, are the copies of the specification public now? That the company that bid the 400 and some odd thousand?
I would imagine so.
Would it be possible for Mr. Boland to get a copy of that spec and then call this Pennsylvania company back and say, now tell me how much it would cost to build this?
As long as it wasn't, I
Would it
don't
be
want it
possible for him
to
to
appear
do that?
that Howell
And then let's see if
Township
it's still
would be-
$35,000?
Mr. Filiatro, would you answer that, please?
I do believe it's public. I think it's academic because, it has to be done in an open bid session. We can't be having other people competing against an open bid process. The specs are about 3 inches thick. There's prevailing wages.
Right.
There's bonding requirements the government has to have that certainly other contractors with commercial contracts don't have to do. And I really think we're just asking for problems from the existing contractor.
So, Mayor, Mr. Filiatro, then picking up a phone and calling some guy in Pennsylvania and saying, how much would it cost to do this is apples and oranges to what we bought.
Exactly.
All right, I just want to make that clear.
No, I understand that, I'm just trying...
Well, then why did you bother raising the point?
Because I think it bears more investigations more than simply putting an ad.
Well,
in
how many
the paper.
years have we been investigating purchasing the salt building, Mr. Schlegel?
How many years?
Don't we have the president of the New Jersey Public Purchasing Agents Officers as our purchasing agent?
Yes, we do.
Okay, but isn't this like the 3rd year?
No, actually, Mr. Howell, it's probably more like the 8th or 10th year.
Okay.
We actually started looking at this when we had a real bad snow year, and the sole supplier that supplies salt in the state of New Jersey parked his barges out on the ocean, would bring them in until the prices went up.
So you're
that's
pretty
when we
confident,
started
Mr.
looking at
Filiatro,
it.
that we've done our due diligence?
We have done our due diligence.
All right, thank you.
Maybe we should have called Pennsylvania for that salt.
I just like to see going above and beyond the standard procedure.
Thank you, Mr.
Leave no
Bond.
stones unturned.
All right, Mrs. Dixon, you have something on resolutions? Okay.
I don't have this thing in front of me, but I want to ask you something about the salt thing. Whatever this.
You have a question then
Yes.
regarding the
Salt dome.
purchase of the
Salt
salt
dome,
dome.
okay, that
Okay.
sounds good.
You were right on.
I think whatever you're doing is good, and I don't think it's my opinion that no information should be given out or no question should be asked of somebody else, because you're going to be liable to get sued by the guy you just hired to go build your salt dome. So say, hey, can you do, listen, I'm doing this, and we're going to pay this, can you do it cheaper? And boy, are you guys going to have a problem. So I think it's a
Mrs.
very
Dixell, I
good
was being facetious
Okay.
when I made that point.
Any
Oh,
other
I'm
comments,
not,
Mrs.
tell you
Dixon?
like that.
No, I was.
But I'm not, and I think it's very important
late.
that we don't.
Nobody's
give any
gonna do that,
information.
We're not going to do that, Mrs.
Exactly
Dixell.
right.
What other
We don't
questions
wanna-
on any
We have enough
resolutions?
legal problems in this town, we don't need any more.
Do you have any other comments on the
Yes, I want to
resolutions?
ask you, 80 Scenic. Now, that's the building on 80 Scenic, the corner that...
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yes, it is.
And that's up for a tax sale or
No,
something?
just one unit in it.
One unit.
The basement.
Right, which is in the basement.
Which is the basement.
Okay. I just thought, because I always see that building kind of occupied. All right.
It is. It is occupied.
All right.
Mrs. Dixell, thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much.
Okay. All right, I'm going to ask the council that we act in this in 2 ways. We have a separate vote on 9B26. We are pulling 9B40. So let's first, I'll ask for a motion for all consent agenda items, including the resolutions, excluding 9B26 and 9B40. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, we need a second. We have a motion and a second. Any final comments or remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. We need a motion, please, separately for Article 9B26.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Abstain.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to call our attention back to several items for discussion. I'd ask that the council accept the resignation of Michael Morello to the Class 1 member of the Planning Board. I already announced the appointment of the designee. Do we need official action on that? I mean, it's really my accepting his resignation because I'm the appointing authority.
Yeah, I don't
So,
believe the
I accept
entire
it.
governing body.
Okay, so I accept it.
No,
Okay.
but Mr. Mayor, if I could make a point
Please.
of information, as the council liaison to the planning board, I do want to thank publicly Mr. Morello for his work, his dedication. He was his service was very much appreciated, always had a lot of important things to say and contribution to be made, and is a true gentleman. So he and I didn't always see eye to eye on some issues at the planning board, but I could always count on him to be polite and well-prepared, and I want to thank him for his service.
Here is a good point, and I really should do the same since he represented me this past year plus. I met Mr. Morello through being involved in the community, didn't know his position on the issues, and I didn't want to know. I wanted someone I knew was going to have their head and their heart in the right direction, and he always did. And I was very comfortable that he represented me on the planning board, and I'll miss his service, particularly because I have to go home and tell my wife I have to go to the planning board on Thursday night now.
You blew that one. You blew that one.
On a serious note, I want to share your sentiments. Mr. Morello is a real gentleman. He's a good public servant. All right, 7A2, proposed ordinance road opening waiver requests. We were going to talk this evening about the engineer's recommendation for a proposed ordinance regarding road openings. I might recommend to the council that in light of the lateness of the hour, we've got a pretty full agenda, that this be moved to September, okay?
Yes.
Mayor, can I,
Agree?
if I could take 10 seconds, we don't have to
You
discuss
don't know,
everything.
Mr.
No, 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 no.
Nunziato's 10
You're already
seconds.
7 of them.
No history, no history, Mr. Nunziato.
All we're looking to do, quite frankly, is craft a process by which the waiver doesn't have to come to the council. It can stay within the engineering department, and this way we don't have to involve this whole process in front of council. That's it.
Good.
We'll draft something, and then we can...
You draft it, we'll look at it in September.
Perfect.
It's a
Thank
great
you.
idea. Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Mr. Davis. All right, moving along, we have some unfinished business, specifically Article 8A1. This is 00824 Clayton Avenue, one-way road northbound change. This was introduced on July 15th, and a public hearing is scheduled for this evening.
Ordinance number 0-08-24, introduced and passed on first reading on 7/15/08 and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of the publication.
I think we're in the wrong.
I'm the wrong one.
You're in the
I'm
wrong one.
one?
Yeah, hold on, I got to do that.
Like, this is wrong.
Hold on.
It's the wrong.
This is the easy one for you
It's okay,
guys.
Mayor Showmaker.
Oh, forget it.
8A1, I'm getting there, my book is a little...
Here.
All right, 8A1. Accordingly, ordinance 00824, introduced and passed on first reading on 7/15/08 and published according to law, is now being taken upon for further consideration in the public hearing. Affidavit of the publication of the ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue 7/18/08 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and the copies were available to the general public upon request. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 7-5, Schedule 6, one-way streets.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the general public for anyone who would like to make or enter comments for or against the possible adoption of this ordinance. If you'd like to be recognized, please come forward. Yes, Mrs. Smith, good evening.
Pauline Smith, 54 Vanderveer Road. We've been through this, as you know, if you look back in history. I understand the desire to control traffic and have it one way, and it makes sense rationally to have it, it doesn't actually go north, it goes east and then north. But I'm sure you're all familiar with Clayton Avenue, and there's a house right at that curve before you start to turn north. I'm afraid, and as are the residents, I don't even know if they know about this, who live in that house. That house is exactly on the curve because Clayton Avenue has been widened to, that's it, the house is right there. They're afraid somebody's going to end up in their kitchen, right in their house. And I think that should be considered before you make any kind of vote. I haven't been down the road since my friend Zena passed away Christmas Eve. So I don't know exactly now, but I'm sure that situation hasn't changed. And I haven't spoken to any of her neighbors, so I don't know if they know about this. But I think you should hear from them and maybe look at...
They were here.
Doing what, though?
They came.
They did come here. They were
They
here.
asked for us to do this.
Right.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
The Ferrugias? No.
Well, I don't know if it was them, but residents were here.
He lived on, one resident, and I'm sorry I don't remember his name, but he lives adjacent to, the property adjacent to, or you'd say behind the post office. He does not live in the house that I'm referring to.
This was also a recommendation from the police department, Traffic Safety Division.
It doesn't seem very safe to me. That's all I want to say. It doesn't seem safe. It seems like it would be a danger. It would. I can see that the traffic flow would be better this way, because if the one way the other way, you'd have to cross traffic on 524 to make the left turn. But, as I said, to alleviate the possibility of somebody running into that house, because Clayton Avenue was what Clayton Avenue is. It was a little narrow dirt private road. And we have to, it's not dirt anymore, but we have to, contend with that.
Okay.
I'd please like you to look at that situation and know that the best alternative before you vote on it.
We'll take your comments under advisement. Thank you. All right, Mrs. Dixell, you'd like to be recognized.
These people came in here asking for this to be changed again.
All right, why don't you just hold on a second? Hold on. Just give us your name and address for the record.
Barbara Dixell, Villages. I remember recently, these people came in here asking for some kind of a traffic change, because the traffic is going two ways, but she's right, it's a very, very narrow street, and
So your comment is?
Going around that horn, somebody's going to get killed. It probably should be a one-way street, or go out there and figure out how wide the street is, because it's not. It's really not. And when you go down, say from the post office, making the turn toward County Road 524, or they're trying to avoid the light on 524 and coming up that way to go out by the post office on Wyckoff, yeah, there's traffic going in two directions. The road is this wide.
Okay. We appreciate your comments. Thank you.
There's going to be an accident, but.
Okay.
And if you do put anything, or you make it a one-way street, like you did on 5 Points near Vanderveer or whatever, put a railing up with rocks in front of it so nobody goes through the living room. Remember that person came in here.
You just reminded me.
That person came in here because.
Thanks,
The railing
Mrs.
is fixed.
Dixell.
It's fixed.
Thank you.
Every time I drive by, there's a big dent. Is it fixed?
Yes,
Oh,
it
my
is.
goodness.
Yes, it is.
But I
Lightning's
remember.
gonna strike.
Yeah, because I do. I mean, every time I drive by there, I remember that these people came in because they were afraid that their child
Yes,
was going to
they-
get killed because the kid can't play outside. So if anything at
All right,
all,
we
in
appreciate your
order to help
comments.
your situation, do the same thing at the couple of houses over there.
Thank you, Mrs. Dixell. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this? All right, let the record reflect no one else is asked to be acknowledged. I'm going to close the public hearing, and I would ask that, Ms. Woolman, you please read the, I apologize, we've already read the title of the ordinance. So at this time, we need a council member to proceed.
May I make a motion that ordinance number 0-08-24 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
With motion, we need a second. And we have a second. Any final comments or remarks?
Mayor, if I could, cars already travel north, east and then north on that, and cars aren't running into that house now. It's a two-way street. The state refused the township's request to make it a southbound,
That's correct.
And the residents did actually come here and ask that we make it a one-way street with, and I believe the police department agreed and said parking on one side only, not on both sides.
I believe the traffic safety agreed to that.
Do you have a comment, Mr. Walsh?
No, the state did turn down making it southbound.
That's correct. New Jersey DOT has only approved northbound only.
So it's only a two-way street. So if we're going to make it a one-way, the state's only allow us to do it one way. Is that correct? Good. I thank you.
All right, any final comments or remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
No.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. All right, 882. Accordingly, ordinance 00825, introduced and passed on a first reading on 7/15/08 in public recording laws, now being taken upon for further consideration and a public hearing. Affidavit of the publication of the ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 7/18/08 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance was posted in the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies were also available to the general public upon request. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the title of this ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending permit and licensing fees as set forth in the Code of the Township of Howell, Chapter 139, Fees, Charges, and Costs, Article 2, entitled Health Licenses and Permits, Chapter 182, Individual Septic Disposal System, Section 182-9, entitled Fees, and Chapter 241, Retail Food Handling Establishments, Section 241-8, entitled Fees.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the general public for anyone who might like to make comments for or against the possible adoption of this ordinance. If you'd like to be recognized, please indicate so. Anyone who'd like to be recognized? All right, seeing no one, let the record reflect there's been no request for public comment. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask a member of the council to make an introduction.
Motion ordinance number 0-08-25 be finally passed and adopted. The notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to the title only.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second.
Second, Mayor.
Motion and a second. Any comments or remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Procedurally, with respect to 8A3, we have been advised by the manager's office that for procedural purposes, this needs to be voted down. Is that accurate?
That's correct, Mayor. However, you would need to actually open the public hearing, close the
Right.
public hearing, and then
Okay,
take a
just
vote.
want to remind the council. All right, 8A3, ordinance number 00826, introduced and passed on a first reading on 7/15/08 and published according to law is now being taken upon further consideration in a public hearing. Affidavit of the publication of the ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 7/18/08 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance was posted in the bulletin board in the municipal building, and the copies are available to the general public upon request. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the title of this ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell authorizing the sale of properties in the Township of Howell, County, Monmouth, State of New Jersey pursuant to NJSA 40A:12-13.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the general public for anyone who might like to entertain or pose questions or comments regarding the possible adoption of this ordinance. Would anyone like to be recognized? Anyone to be recognized? All right, I'm going to close the public portion, being that there's no comments. At this time, I ask a member of the council to make a motion.
We're going to make a motion that we pull this ordinance?
Make a motion, and then we'll vote no. So you can read the motion as is.
Motion that ordinance number 0-08-26 be finally passed and adopted, and notice of its passage adoption be published in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Second, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
No.
Mr. Howell?
No.
Mr. Showmaker?
No.
Mr. Walsh?
No.
Mayor DeBella?
No. Okay, 8A4, this is 00828, was introduced and passed on a first reading on 7/15/08 and published according to law. It's now being taken upon further consideration in a public hearing. Affidavit of the publication of the ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 7/18/08 is submitted, and it's noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in a municipal building. Copies were available to the general public upon request. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the title?
An ordinance amending the previously amended ordinance 0-04-63, Chapter 188, entitled Land Use of the General Ordinances of the Township of Howell in order to implement the October 5, 2004 grant by the New Jersey Council of Affordable Housing of substantial certification to Howell Township's Housing Element and Fair Share Plan.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the general public. For anyone who might like to make or ask comments for or against the adoption of this ordinance. Is there anyone here who'd like to be recognized on this matter? Anyone for public comments? You
Yes.
need to come up, Mrs. Dixell, if you'd like to be
And Mayor,
recognized.
before you take a final vote, there's minimum lot frontage says 40 and has square feet, and the minimum lot width says 50 square feet. That should just say feet.
Should say linear, right?
Feet is fine.
Okay. Okay.
The
Mrs.
height.
Dixell,
Is
question?
that a substantive change?
No, it is not.
All right, good.
Mrs. Dixell?
Yeah, the height is still what, 45 feet? What's the maximum height now?
We didn't change the maximum,
Cause-
right? It was-
What
the word-
happened,
The
Mrs.
word minimum was
Yeah.
there instead of maximum.
Right. Mrs. Dixell, this was just the housekeeping. In 2004, when the ordinance was passed, there was a word minimum, like minimum impervious surface instead of maximum. So this is just really changing the word minimum to maximum.
Okay.
That's all this is. No changes of,
Because the book I have says 45 feet.
whatever it is,
60 feet,
we're not making any of those
whatever.
changes.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dixell. Anyone else who'd like to be recognized on this particular ordinance? Okay, let the record reflect there's been no other request for public comment. We're going to close the public hearing. I'd ask a member of the council to please introduce this ordinance, or make an introduction.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that ordinance number 0-08-28 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
We have a motion, we need a second, please.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any final comments or remarks?
I just have a real quick
Go right
question.
ahead, please.
Mr. Mayor, can Mrs. Schlegel
Maintenance of real property in the Township of Howell pursuant to NJSA 40A:12-13.4.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the general public for anyone who might like to make comments for or against the adoption of this ordinance. If you'd like to be
Motion ordinance number 0-08-3 will be finally passed and adopted. Notice it's passed and adopted, be published in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
We have a motion, we need a second, please.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any final comments or remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes, 8A7 is ordinance number 00831, introduced and passed on a first reading on on July 15th, 08, and is published according to law. It's now being taken upon further consideration in a public hearing. Affidavit of the publication of the ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 7/18/08 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Copies were also available to the general public upon request. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the title of this ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell revising stormwater management control and basin calculations.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the general public for anyone who would like to make comments for or against the adoption of this ordinance. If you'd like to be recognized, please indicate so. Would anyone like to be recognized? All right, let the record reflect there are no requests for public participation on this item. I'm going to close the public hearing. Member of the council, please proceed.
Motion ordinance number 0-08-31 be finally passed and adopted. Notice it's passed and adopted, be published in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
All right, we have a motion. We need a second, please.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any final comments or remarks? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. All right, 8A8. Ordinance number 00832, introduced and passed on a first reading on 7/15/08, and published according to law, is now being taken upon further consideration in the public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 7/18/08 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted in the bulletin board of the municipal building, and copies were available to the general public upon request. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the title of this ordinance?
An ordinance providing for various capital improvements by the Township of Howell and the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, appropriating the aggregate amount of $3,992,602, therefore including the amount of $150,000 expected to be received from the Monmouth County Park System Open Space Grant, and authorizing the issuance of $3,649,000 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the general public for comments or remarks for or against the possible adoption of this ordinance. If anyone would like to be recognized, please come forward. Any comments from the public? All right, let the record reflect no request for public comment. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask a member of the council to proceed.
Motion that ordinance number 0-08-32 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second, please.
Second, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes, 8A9 is ordinance 00833, introduced and passed on a first reading on 7/15/08, and published according to law, is now being taken upon further consideration in a public hearing. Affidavit of the publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 7/18/08 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies were available to the general public upon request. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance appropriating $89,500 available in the Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various sewer utility improvements in and by the Township of Howell in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the general public to entertain any comments or remarks for or against the final adoption of this ordinance. Is there anyone who'd like to be recognized on this particular item? Anyone to be recognized? All right, let the record reflect that there were no requests for public comment. I'm going to close the public hearing. Member of the council, please proceed.
Mayor, I make a motion that ordinance number 0-08-33 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
We have a motion. We need a second, please.
Second, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any final comments or remarks?
Mayor, if I may be recognized.
Showmaker.
Mr. Slagle, on this ordinance, I recall recently that we received a letter from MRSA in regards to some maintenance issues, and I thought they asked if we were was just a recent letter, we got 2 letters, one with the odor down on Freewood Acres, where the gentleman wouldn't let them in the home.
Right.
And secondly, he said that the other letter said that they had done their part, but we were supposed to do our part in another area under improvements. And I thought I brought that letter with me tonight.
There were 2 separate issues here, and I'm sure Mr. Nunziato can help me out here, but there were two different homes. The one home of the gentleman that came here over and over, there have been like 6 failed attempts to get in. I had explained that we tried to get in, and we've gotten no response. Then I believe it's like the house next door. There was another issue. He had gone away. This resident had gone away for a period of time and had come back, and there was an odor. And yeah, can you take it from there?
Yeah. But we also received a letter different from that stated that MRSA had done their part on some type of an improvement to a line, and now the second part of it was what we were to take care of. I probably have it at home.
Because we did take care of the things that we were going to take care of, looking at the laterals, right?
Yeah, we did that. We TV'd
everything.
I have the whole file. Done then.
Yes, we did that.
We actually did it last August.
Right. Right after the problem, we had sent our people out to do that.
Good enough. So this has nothing to do with that, though?
No.
All right. All right.
All right, are there any final comments or remarks from the council? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. All right, 8810 is ordinance number 00834, introduced and passed on the first reading on 7/15/08 and published according to law, is now being taken upon further consideration in a public hearing. Affidavit of publication of the ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 7/18/08 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance was posted in the Bulletin Board and Municipal Building, and the copies were available to the general public upon request. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the title of this ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell amending the Code of Howell Township, Chapter 277, Streets and Sidewalks, Article 3, Traffic Control for Street and Highway Construction, Section 277-14 entitled Site Preparation, and Section 277-15 entitled Violations and Penalties.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the public for anyone who'd like to be recognized for comments for or against the final adoption of this ordinance. Anyone who'd like to be recognized? Anyone to be recognized? Okay, let the record reflect no requests for public comment. I'm going to close the public hearing on this. Ask a member of the council to proceed.
Motion that ordinance number 0-08-34 be finally passed and adopted, and notice of its passage and adoption be published in an 8/15 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
We have a motion, and we need a second, please.
Second, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, final comments or remarks?
Mayor, I would just ask, when would these, if we could ask Mr. Schlegel, when are these going to be required to be put up at existing sites?
I would just like to make a comment which may kind of answer that. I had a discussion with Board Attorney Cachero, and apparently there's some recent litigation, or a recent case law, rather, that a town had required their applicants to post a sign, and without being specific, because I haven't seen it yet, but there was some information on that sign that apparently the builder didn't want to put on there, and he legally challenged, the validity of that ordinance, and he won in court. The town lost. The town appealed it, and apparently lost again. So what Mr. Cachero had said is we could impose some type of ordinance for some type of signage, but it would probably only be able to be put up voluntarily. We couldn't force them to do it.
I think, if I recall, I was on the planning board when those signs, that Mr. Showmaker could probably remember, was that the signs had to be put up in advance by a builder who was coming to the planning board for a subdivision application. Right. Those were the signs. This sign is the legal working hours. That's all we want on there.
I understand, but he said there may, and again, I don't want to, kill it at this point, but I'm just saying I don't know if it's applicable or not, but...
Isn't there a 10-foot right-of-way that's a township? Well, I thought my sidewalk is really township property.
Yeah, but...
I've been told that even though I have to maintain that little patch of grass right there, which I don't, Mr. Kentfield does. Well, it's not my property, is that true?
That was just your house. You didn't get that note?
It varies from development to development, but typically it's a 50-foot right-of-way, so there's a couple
You don't
feet.
even know the tree.
It's a couple feet, so could the township have a sign put there?
Well, again, at this point, I think we're looking at it when it's before the map is either recorded or during the development process, but after, obviously, the development is, turned over to the residents, that would go away.
All right, we just want a sign there during the construction phase.
Right.
Because a lot of the contractors don't know, hey, I'm not supposed to be working at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday.
Yeah,
That's all we want.
I've seen
So
it.
you know what? Put the sign up. That's it.
I
Mrs.
have
Dalton?
a couple of questions and comments. Does this ordinance pertain to individuals who may be doing their own work on their own homes?
I believe it said development applications and site.
I've been known to work late at night on my
Okay.
home.
So, I mean, we approved a couple of subdivisions recently on the planning board where somebody's going to build their dream home on a lot. Does it apply to Mr. and Mrs. Smith who, and I use that generically, I don't mean Don and Pauline.
Mrs. Dalton, my interpretation is it would, because they'd have to go
Yeah.
through the permit process, and they
Right.
would have to, it would be considered a legitimate construction site. Absolutely.
Okay. And if they needed, so this is just new construction or, again?
I think it's a construction permit that requires approvals from the
So-
town, would require
So
this.
if I put an addition on the back of my house and I wanted to do it myself,
No, you said in addition.
no, well,
This is new construction.
However, I think it's a construction
Well,
project, correct?
first of all, the noise ordinance applies to anybody and everybody.
I understand that. I'm not talking about the noise ordinance. I'm
Right.
talking about these posting of a sign, et cetera.
It's not what it says.
Yeah, I think
References
Ms.
the noise ordinance. That's what this is supposed to do.
But the sign, but someone has to put up a sign
Right.
saying when they're going to do work.
It's not what it
Okay?
Yes or
That's what
no?
we've been talking about for 4 months.
And I've been expressing my displeasure with it for 4 months too, and which will come as no surprise when I vote no tonight.
Okay, so we know how you're voting.
It'll shock me.
All right, I think, Mrs. Dalton, your inquiry, which is a good one, we should be clear, is that if someone was to do a large construction project to their home, they're adding a dormer, they're closing in their garage, they need permits, they will be obligated in performing these services either themselves or through a subcontractor to have to comply by putting up the sign the same way they would if 14 or 15 homes were built. I think that's the question.
That's the question.
We
That's
just want to
right.
get that confirmed. Mr. Nunziata, what is the answer to that question?
My computer, I got to get to chapter 277-14. Maybe I'll steal your book, because that's that's what it's referring to. And if that
All right.
is specifically site development, then that's all it applies to.
Let's get the book.
Okay,
He's
and
looking
it-
for the code book.
It also talks about we need to look at it from time to time to address practical experiences. That's all I'm asking about. Because the other questions I have are with respect to the hours. We've created these hours, and I'm very interested in this litigation that occurred in another municipality where the municipality lost, and it was over details and hours and such, because I have expressed my concern about the legal holiday issue. I'm not comfortable with it, because I think we're treading on
I did
shaky
send everybody,
territory.
though, legal holidays, right?
Yeah, it's like,
You did.
like 2
No,
months
okay,
ago.
okay.
No, you did, you
State,
did.
they were all
But again,
No, I understand
I
your
still
concern.
think we're treading on shaky territory when we're talking about some holidays where most businesses don't take off.
But, you know,
And
and
who's-
Mayor, when we had this discussion before, it's not, this isn't for the benefit of the business, this is for the benefit of the people who live where these developments are being built and may have that day off and may be able to sleep after 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm more concerned about protecting the rights of the residents that live here now than the guy who's driving down here from Middlesex County and turns his saw on at 5 o'clock in the morning. My concern is more for the people that are already here. And that's why I've been asking for 5 years that we enforce this noise ordinance.
Did you find that section, Mr. Nunziato?
Yeah, it says construction sites. I wouldn't think your personal home would be a construction site.
Well,
You need a permit. Doesn't it
What-
become a
but that-
construction site? I put a permit in
You
my
need a
window
permit
when
to
I
put a
had
shed
my
in your
pool
yard.
put
Hold on
in.
1 second, Mrs.
One-
Showmaker has
If
the
we can
floor.
go back to when we originally discussed this, and I heard some comment out in the thing that construction is construction. when we had this was, and it states in here also, it has to do with construction sites consisting of multiple houses or commercial development, and that's how it was. So if there's not enough verbiage, and this is not specific, then we need to go back to the drawing board, because when we had the conversation regarding this was for construction sites or commercial development, not for home improvements or additions. And that's, I heard your comment. That was a discussion that this was based around. This was not for, and if that's the, because, and that was the intent of it. So if that's not what this is intended for, I understand your concern, Ms. Dalton, because that was the discussion. So let's get that clarified now.
Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead.
Under Chapter 111-2, our definition of a construction site is any public or private property where the construction, erection, or alteration of any structure, building, or land is being performed by a contractor for an aggregate contract price of more than $15,000. That's how we describe a construction site.
So that's the definition. So if somebody decides they're going to finish their basement, they get the approvals, and they do it themselves, and it's less than $15,000, then they do not have to comply.
Well, if they don't use a contractor.
And if they don't even use a contractor, they do it themselves. But if somebody's putting a dormer on, and they're going to have construction crews and people coming in and out and sheet rock, then it's going to be a different story.
I disagree. No, so the intent was not for that purpose. Ms. Dalton, are you understanding? Is that what your understanding of this ordinance was?
The intent was on new projects, or...
Well, just to be clear, according to this definition, it would be on any, whether it's new or whether it's remodeling, and it would be provided that the person is using someone other than themselves. So if you're doing home remodeling on your own, and you're doing it yourself, and you're a handyman, as is Mr. Walsh, for example, then you wouldn't have to comply with this.
But if you have to, like Mr. Walsh, have somebody come in and do it for you.
Then you would, provided that the project is $15,000 or more in its anticipated value, then you would have to comply.
All right, Mr. Dalton, Mayor,
Go right ahead.
what I don't understand is, Mrs. Dalton, what would make it acceptable for somebody doing an addition on one house to disturb the neighbors next door and not have to have the sign up that the neighbors can call and say, hey, look, there's a sign up there that said they can't work, as opposed to somebody in the villages that's living there when they were building that development?
Well, it could still apply to someone in the villages.
I'm asking you what's the difference?
Who puts up the sign? What does it cost? What does the sign look like? Who's responsible for, I have to put up a sign now?
Only if you're making your property a construction site.
Besides, well, I mean, I made my property a construction site last year. There's not one of us that hasn't made their property a construction site in the last year.
I think, Mrs. Dalton, to answer your question objectively, if you have to use a subcontractor, perhaps maybe a resolution, I'm thinking out loud here, is now the contractor puts up that sign for you. And I'll tell you what, we had our basement redone and we got all the permits. But when we had our basement redone, there was an ugly aluminum sign on my front lawn for the 6 weeks that the guy was there that said, another great project done by, Joe Blow's Construction. So if he has to put at the bottom of that, and by the way, I can only be here between the hours of so-and-so, then I'm sure that that's probably...
That brings me to my next point.
Okay.
And that was a point raised by something that some public members provided written commentary, which on the other hand is, we have no real specifications in this other than that the sign has to be clear. Well, depending on what kind of vision you've got, sign could be this big and it could still be clear. So, Mr. Mayor, your point about putting at the bottom of, Joe Blow's Construction sign that the hours of operation are whatever, as long as it's clear to somebody who has, aeronautically perfect vision.
Well, we got through the first issue about who it applies to, so your second issue is a good one, which is, what are the parameters upon which the sign needs to be posted, developed, built? What does it look like? Go ahead, Mrs. Schlegel.
Well, I'm
You look
looking...
like Scoop the reporter.
Well, because, no, I'm looking at this ordinance, and it says, while on site, the sign shall state in clear letters the number of houses being built or square footage of and type of commercial development being constructed.
Okay.
The hours of operation for construction as provided by
Well, then that's an inconsistency with the definition of a construction site in our own ordinance.
I'm just looking at
Yeah.
No,
the
so
physical ordinance.
In the case of an individual remodeling project, that first part that you read would not be applicable because it is
Correct.
neither a house being built, perhaps some square footage could maybe added maybe, and if there's no commercial development, that wouldn't be in there. But still, the sign would have to list hours of operation.
That's correct.
Mayor, if I may.
And the rest of it.
If I can just make one comment, because we could kind of be pulling this completely out of context, but this has to do with site preparation, which means the clearing of the land and so on and so forth. Did I clearly misunderstand the intent of this?
No, I'm reading the ordinance as written. I'm not saying that whether it's
Let
written
me
correctly or
give
not.
Let me
but
give
it
the
does
intent
say
of
that.
this, and I happen to agree with Mr. Howell that this is a concern, because I get the calls and the emails from residents. I live next door to the so-and-so development, they're putting 5 houses in, and the developer is there, it's 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and they're hammering it or drilling, or it's 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, and they're drilling, and I go over and I ask the construction guys would they stop, and we've had residents come here, and the construction guys come off the site, they curse you out, they tell you to get out of here, or they're going to physically assault you, we got a job to finish, go back in your house if you know what's good for you. And we've had people come here, or call me, or put it in emails, and so I think the intent of this law is a good one, so that there's no misunderstanding. It's right there on the job site, you're to be here between this hour and this hour. And it's also easier for the police when they show up, when they can point right at the sign and say, it's between this hour and this hour. And developers are in business to build, and they're going to try and squeeze in every last hour and every last minute they can. So I think the intent of this ordinance is good. It's designed to protect our homeowners and residents. Mrs. Dalton, I think we're at your point, which is there is some ambiguity with respect to what this sign may need to look like. And that's a fair point, because someone could get away by slapping a sticker on the bottom of a sign that says something this big. And so the question becomes, if we've satisfied the original question, which is who does it apply to, and it appears as if we have. The second question is, clearly to add in some sign parameters would be a demonstrative change, which we couldn't even figure out here tonight, and it would have to be re-advertised. So the question becomes, do we want to proceed in adopting this,
And then we can come back.
and then craft a separate ordinance that defines the parameters upon which size, lettering, shape, color, whatever the case may be, which we could do in rapid order?
Right.
And that's the question for the council to consider.
Okay.
So are we okay, I mean, we'll have a roll call and we'll do a vote, but conceptually, are we okay with proceeding with this and directing the manager and her team to come up with a sign-specific ordinance? Well, I'm not going to, you may vote no,
The
but
answer's yes, but
conceptually,
there's
okay.
one other point.
One
that
final point.
Because it's a point I raised before, and I'm
Okay.
sorry if it upsets people that
Listen to me, hold on one second. You don't have to apologize for asking questions.
You can apologize to me.
No, you don't apologize to anybody. This is your job, and so don't apologize to anybody. This is legitimate debate, and it's my job to see to it you get heard.
Do what you gotta do.
But it says under Section 2, under 277-15, and I know I have raised this question a couple of times, the words "any person," used to say "any person." Then I think I asked a question, and we wanted to change it to contractor. Now there's this, I know we don't have a definition of person contractor anywhere in our ordinance book. And I thought, and I'm sorry that perhaps the appropriate people are not here tonight to answer that, but I thought we were going to take out the word person in the penalties.
Mayor, under 111-2, it says contractors, any individual, partnership, or corporation, whether or not licensed, that constructs, erects, or alters any structure, building, or land.
And I don't have a problem with it saying any contractor who commits a violation.
Contractor listed here,
But I do-
individual.
I do have a problem with person.
It says such person.
I don't think that's
Contractor could be a
I don't-
one-man company.
I don't think the word person is a substantive change.
You don't.
You think that's a substantive change?
Person to contractor.
No, it says any person contractor.
any
comma,
person contractor.
Any person contractor, it says, so I'm saying in that text, if it said any person, changing it to contractor, I
Okay.
agree with you.
It's not
But-
even grammatically correct.
Right,
What is
exactly.
it, what are you going to be, an
Right.
elephant contractor?
And Councilwoman Dalton is correct. It's,
All right, so, Mrs. Dalton, does that satisfy?
Yeah, that
Okay.
satisfies.
So we are going to, if in fact this passes, it will be amended, let me just be clear, it'll be amended to strike the word person, okay? All right, are there any other comments or remarks? All right, hearing none, roll call, please. We already
was.
opened and closed. That's okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. All right, and the closure on this is, Mrs. Schlegel, you and your team should please prepare an ordinance for our consideration to define the parameters of the sign. Just parliamentary procedure-wise, I need a motion and a second to proceed beyond 11 p.m.
So move, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or remarks? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to proceed. All right, we're at 8A11. A11, ordinance number 00823, introduced and passed on a first reading on 6/24/08, and published according to law is now being taken upon further consideration in the public hearing. Affidavit of the publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 6/27/08 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies are available to the general public upon request. Ms. Wellman, would you please read the title of this ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 188 Land Use, Article 10 Zones to delete the prohibition against takeout food from restaurants located in the HT2 zone.
Okay, this time I'm going to open the meeting to members of the general public for anyone who'd like to make comments for or against this ordinance. Is there anyone who'd like to be recognized? Is there anyone who'd like to be recognized? Let the record reflect that no one is asked to be recognized. I want to close the public hearing. Member of the council, please proceed.
Motion that ordinance number 0-08-23 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second, please.
So moved, man.
We have a motion and a second. Any
Second.
final comments or remarks?
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion in 2 seconds. Any final comments or remarks?
Second.
Okay. All right, hearing none.
So.
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yeah.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. 8A12.
Oh.
8A12, I'm going to
I thought we took.
reopen the public hearing that was carried from the meeting on July the 15th. Just as a general announcement, we did indicate earlier this evening with respect to 8A12 that the council is forced to vote no on this particular issue because it is deficient, because there is an inaccuracy with respect to the zone designation. So this has been predisposed. The council will be voting no. Again, there will be a separate session and public hearing on this, introduction and public hearing, after those items have been remediated. So I'm going to reopen the public. Is there anyone who'd like to entertain or make any final comments in light of what I just described? Under public. All right, recognizing no one is asked to be recognized, I'm going to close the public portion, which was carried from the meeting on the 15th of July, and ask that a member of the council please proceed.
Motion that ordinance number 0-08-18 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Okay, we have a motion, we need a second.
Second, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Any final comments or remarks? To the attorney, you're comfortable from a procedural perspective how I executed this? Definitely. Okay. All right, hearing no other comments, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
No?
Correct. Mr. Howell?
No.
Mrs. Showmaker?
No.
Mr. Walsh?
No.
Mayor DeBella?
No. Okay, we have some new business items.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to introducing the 9A1, please ignore that explanatory. This is creating a no passing zone along the front of Deerwood Park.
Okay.
What happened?
Apparently, the explanatory statement does not match what we're looking to do.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, hold on 1 second. 9A1, this is merely an introduction. Ask a member of the council to please proceed.
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-08-35 on first reading by title and to order the same be published in full in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on 9/23/08 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Okay, we have a motion. We need a second, please.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, amending the Code of Howell Township, Section 7-6.1, Schedule 18, no passing zones.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. And then the next item, I'd ask a member of the council
Motion to
please
introduce
proceed.
ordinance number 0-08-36 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in full in the 8/15/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it be further considered for final passage after public hearing and meeting of the Township Council to be held on 9/23/08 at 7:30 prevailing time in the municipal building.
All right, we have a motion. We need a second, please.
Second, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Ordinance authorizing the sale of property in the Township of Howell, County, Monmouth, State of New Jersey pursuant to NJSA 48:12-13. Roll call, Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes, okay, just some general house cleaning items. The council will be going into executive session. At the conclusion of executive session, we shall adjourn immediately, and we shall not participate in any additional public business after that time. We do have a workshop meeting on Tuesday, September 9th, here at 6:30, regular session at 7:30. Our public participation meeting is Tuesday, September 16th, in these chambers at 7:30, and our regular September meeting is Tuesday, September the 23rd, executive session at 6:30, and regular at 7:30. Mrs. Schlegel, before we go to executive, is there any additional business for the council's consideration?
No, Mayor.
All right, Mrs. Woolman, would you please read the statement for executive? Litigation.
Whereas Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 13 of the New Jersey Revised Statutes require that the public shall not be excluded from any meeting of a public body unless a resolution authorizing such exclusion is adopted at a public meeting. Whereas the Township Council of the Township of Howell has determined that such a closed meeting is required to discuss certain matters which are exempted from consideration with the public in attendance under New Jersey Revised Statutes 10:4-12, namely litigation. Now therefore be...
Litigation and personnel.
I'm sorry, yes, litigation and personnel.
Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Howell that the public shall be excluded from the next portion of this meeting, and the Township Council will not reconvene in public session thereafter. Be it further resolved that minutes will be kept of the meeting in closed session, and the time and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public cannot be determined at this time.
Okay, we need a motion, please.
Motion, Mayor.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Second.
Roll call, please, for executive.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Oh, yeah.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, we also need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.